In 2026, I've done over 380 videos so far, and you definitely can't keep up with that. But chill, that's why I separated all of them in a single video. You can clearly see how much the quality changes over time. I used to talk so weird. What happens after you complete a level? Where does your player go? Well, the moment you complete a level, your percentage locks at 100%. No matter how many decimal places you display, it's always going to stay at 100%. But what if I told you that's actually wrong? You see, considering that the end wall is 100% and using a bug to see through it, you'll notice that your player gets stuck a bit further in, and that's where it stays. This level remixes are getting out of hand. You see, in Geometry Dash there are some levels that look exactly the same as others. Sucoup and Hell, for example, recently went through a big controversy because of a level called Sucoup and Joy. Now, instead of the classic Hell theme, this one is Joy. The problem is that Joy is just in the name, since the level has a literal top 10 gap at the start and uses the 2.2 ship physics. How would Dash look like if it were a layout? Well, there are no color changes or special effects, but it's playable at least. Now, a bit further in, the structures have no details whatsoever. They're just blocks. The swing section has a ton of random mini spikes. The transitions are dramatic as ever, but the weirdest part is definitely the ending. Just take a look at it. The mini mode has a huge problem. If you didn't know, the player's hitbox is actually separated into two parts. The red outline, which acts as a collision for blocks coming from below, and a death trigger for hazards, as well as this inner blue hitbox that many people don't know the purpose of. But here's the thing. It serves as a death trigger for direct collisions. Now, what does all of that have to do with the mini mode? Well, it turns out that in mini mode, only the red hitbox changes size, which makes no sense. The fact that you have to beat an entire level without any checkpoints is something that already existed by the time Geometry Dash was released and was considered pure craziness. Now, what if that was never the case? What if even the easiest levels like the Nightmare had checkpoints? You just died, but it's fine because there's a checkpoint just a few blocks behind. What do you think? The half mode is actually insane. Well, today in Geometry Dash, all you have is the normal size, and if you enter the pink portal, the mini size. Each one of them has its own hitbox size, but the thing is, you can't really change this hitbox in any way. Now, with this new idea, you can. By jumping, you change the rotation of this half icon and are able to get through this gap, as well as the following one that is completely different. What do you think? There's no more grief around here, and you might be asking yourself why. Well, it turns out grief is really bad, so everyone should try relief. Wait, it's gonna make sense in a minute. You see, grief is this demonic evil thing because it's obviously not good, the feeling. Relief, however, is colorful and beautiful, so I think it's time for the young tiger to drop this bad level and focus on something better like relief. Thank you later. Geometry Dash facts you gotta know. Zelok has no pink corpse, but its coins have the closest proximity in naming level. The earliest coin ever placed by Robtop is actually not in the original game. It's located in the Meltdown spin-off, and the level knock him at just 4%. Speaking of coins, blast processing first coins is the furthest in any Robtop level, at 52%. This part in Deadlock is literally perfect for the swing. The Robot and Wave game modes were already being developed all the way back in the 1.6 update, even though they would only be released almost 1 year later. The 2.0 update is extremely inspired by the Super Mario series, with many icons referring to characters from the franchise. Most of Geometry Dash's main levels have a giant problem. In Stereo Madness, many blocks are slightly inaccurate, which leaves some people crazy. The back on track ship part looks more like a ball part than anything. However, some people may actually think this looks like a ship part and somehow see no problems with those things. But if you think those are bad, well, in Electrodynamics there's literally a ground spike missing, and not only that, it also has the infamous 4 spike blind jump. You can skip the entire first half of Deadlocked along with many portals while still managing to beat it, and somehow Dash still has all the start positions Robtop used to test it. The Geometry Dash lost medias are insane. If you didn't know, this game actually has a lot of unreleased content that people have found or that was even posted by Robtop himself. Starting with the most well-known one, the 0.5 speed portal used to look like this. The monsters actually had tongues at some point in development, but were removed afterwards. Speaking of monsters, Robtop's original plan for the 2.0 update was to release all of these monsters. There was even a wizard one. Now, for the craziest ones, there used to be many saw designs, and also in the very first update, you can see Geometry Dash's old name, Geometry Jump, alongside something that looks like pads and orbs. In this level, you only have 5 clicks before it gets smashed by the yellow chicken. But when the level starts, you see this crazy, impossible, silent demon timing jump, which I'm pretty sure isn't real. So you use 1 click here, and then you see this weird guy blocking your way. Okay, so I click twice to avoid him. Shh, I'm gonna help you. Alright bro, there's no way you're doing this brain dead style video.
What do you mean bro? It's trending.
This is the easiest impossible level ever, the Sakupen wall, being even more efficient than a first spike jump, because while the cube can't do it, all the other game modes find a way to pass through. Now, in this situation, there is no way any game mode is getting through this giant wall that extends all the way to the level's limit. Not even the mini wave, which has the smallest hitbox in the entire game, is able to get through. However, what if I told you that there is actually a way to pass this giant wall, and it's way simpler than you might imagine? You'll see, if you go into the editor and select platformer mode, at first glance, nothing really changed. But here's the thing, all you need is a green dash art. Now, still nothing is really happening. So if you go back into the editor, select the dash sharp and click on edit special, this tab will open up. And if you put an absurd number in each one of those options, this happens. You finally get through it. The Skeletor Shenanigans boss fight doesn't exactly look like a ship part, so each game modes could actually fit there while still being possible. Well, with the Cuban robot, you can't really do anything, so you die to these skeletons with a sword. The UFO and wave are pretty chill, however, with the spider, you always die to the wizard. Now, for the ball and swing, they're extremely slow, which also makes them super hard, but they end up impossible. Did you know that you can beat society? And I'm not even talking about using no clip or simply turning LDM on so the level disappears like some others, because if you search for society, you'll find the top one and society. Now, the thing is that despite not actually looking like the top one society, this level has a detail funnier than being called the hardest level in the entire game. The description is exactly the same, except for accept the truth and accept the tough. Can you recognize this level? Well, it's back on track, but it looks pretty different, right? Just take a comparison between the beginning and the ending of the same level. There's something happening. Well, by simply scaling the level down, using a scale trigger, and making it scale up again over the level's length, you're able to get this pretty interesting effect, where the level slowly gets bigger and also almost impossible. Rocktop does not care, because if you go in stereo madness and enter the editor mode, you can see two decoration spikes on top of each other. You could have just done this, but we're not done. A little bit further, this spike is 1 pixel off the platform. Why? In this part, you can notice that there are spikes on top of every single block, but for some reason this is not happening in the last ship. And why is there a decoration spike inside of this block? Actually, Wave Trial's ending doesn't exactly look like a wave part, so which game modes could actually fit there while still being possible? Well, the Cuban robot are obviously impossible because of the second jump. However, the ship swing and UFO can go a little bit further but are not able to enter this gap. Now with the boy it gets interesting. You reach the gap, but unfortunately it's impossible for just a few frames. Finally, with the spider, you can get through the gap and die afterward anyway. Every click is a frame perfect. Sounds crazy, right? And because of that, you may think this makes it the hardest challenge in the entire game. However, not even a level with 32 frame perfects in a row like this one can actually be at the very top, since there are 5 harder levels yet to go. But how can those be harder than this? Well, not everything is about how tight a gap is. There are some mechanics that are just harder than doing a simple frame perfect. This may look like base after base. However, there's something going on here. If you take a closer look, you'll notice that the level appears to be moving, but is it really? Well, in reality, it's not. So what's actually going on here? If you pay attention, you can tell that the end is pretty different from the beginning, for a kind of obvious reason at this point. The level is shrinking with every few clicks, and it's called tiny after tiny. This level makes no sense, but there's something wrong with it. Well, the end wall simply falls in your direction, which is already pretty weird. However, that's not the focus here. You see, at this part you walk on the walls, which is pretty normal nowadays because of the 2.2 triggers. The problem is that this level does not use those triggers because they didn't even exist, and that's because it was made on a private server with just a few of the 2.2 functions. Now, what about this? If you click on the original button, it sends you to a random level made over 12 years ago. Can you beat Yellow Chicken Madness? The start of the level is really easy. You can notice that the terrain is kinda sketchy, maybe because you're stepping on a chicken, but anyway, everything goes smoothly to the ship part. And wow, this is so easy. Skipping to the coin, you can't even get it anymore. What? Skipping further? Wow, that was so close. And wow, look at that. It's possible. This more reinvents the wave trial. Well, the wave is definitely the most loved game mode in the entire game, and unfortunately, it's also one of the buggiest. However, the community itself built mods to fix and customize it the way you want. Like the mod Wave Reimagined, where instead of the vanilla or your custom trail, it turns into this cool glowy trial with 12 handmade mods. The Ceremonious Coin Path doesn't exactly look like a ship part, so which game modes could actually fit in there while still being possible? Well, the Cuban robot are immediately impossible, and unfortunately, the same goes for the spider. Now, the ball feels supernatural and it's completely possible. The same thing goes for the swingcopter and UFO. But here's the interesting part. The wave is by far the hardest game mode. However, with the power of alternate spamming, it's surprisingly possible. You can just beat this level. If you really want to do that, you gotta destroy it completely. I'm talking about destroy the level, which, as you may imagine, lets you destroy it. Now, here's the thing. You can't just explode the level completely without a plan, because if you run out of bombs, you die, and that's not even all. Along with that, you also have to find ways to get through these obstacles in order to finally beat it. This may look like back on track, however, you have to die to beat it. Well, just like Helping Hand, where there are glitchy spikes that you have to purposely die to in order to progress. Something similar is now happening in this level called Back on Tedious, which is called that for a reason. This level is miserably long and tedious. Every 10 seconds, a new spike appears. You restart the level, and it takes an eternity to get back where you were. Some other levels are actually pretty hard. Don't you get it? Well, what about Back to the Basics, which even has a triple spike? Or even Geometry Map Pay Auto, which is entirely memory? At this point, we're gonna need an auto version of auto level. But I think people are losing the plot. Auto play area, auto. The difference is shocking. Check it out. This is the original level, and this is the auto version. Theory of everything, but Yeah, you probably got it by now. Every time you click, you get a yellow chicken scared. And for some reason, I thought the bottom path was the right one, so I went for it, remembered that it wasn't, and died miserably like this. 4,000 hours, 64% on Slaughterhouse, 58 100 on Andromeda, and Super Hemi World Victory, by the way. This mod displays all of your attempts at the same time. Well, today in Geometry Dash, all you get after completing a level is the 100% and the number of attempts it took to accomplish that. How boring. In other games, when you complete a level, all of your attempts are displayed at the same time, which is way cooler. And here's the thing, thanks to this mod, now Geometry Dash also has that. You can see all of your attempts being played at the same time, fading away until the 100% one. Back on track is way too easy, and this might be the best way to make it harder. You might think of something like making all the hitboxes accurate, but what about the yellow doubling the player's hitbox? Would this still be possible? Well, this is double track, and let's check it out. Now, instead of this, your hitboxes look like this, a giant rectangle. But the interesting part is that even with that, back on track is still pretty easy and very possible. This level has secret messages that no one has seen. Well, I'm talking about Troll Madness, and no, I'm not here to talk about the multiple trolls that this level had, because people are forgetting something very obvious in it. You'll see, at some point this monster will create a nether portal, and if you enter it, well, you start playing Tartarus. But what happens if you actually beat the level taking the route? Well, 3 coins and...
Why must you torture yourself?
The first ever dual part in Geometry Dash doesn't really look like a queue part, so which game modes could actually fit in there while still being possible? Well, the UFO, ship, and robot are kinda tough, but possible. It starts getting really hard now. The wave and Syncopter play really weirdly, but end up being possible. Now the ball is nearly impossible, just check out the aftermath. So every single game mode is possible, except for the spider. Did you know that you can beat Grief? And I'm not even talking about playing the level with no clip or some obvious hack. So how? The level isn't even verified yet. Well, if you think Grief is not on the servers at all, you'd be very wrong, because if you search for it, there you go. It's a pretty old version, but what actually matters is that anyone can beat it. Just like some levels I've already showcased, if you turn unloaded tail mode on, the level just vanishes. This level coin sucks. Now seriously, the level is a medium demon, right? In order to get the first coin, you've gotta beat the level. Simple, right? Well, but you've gotta beat a buffed version of it. Literally extreme demon difficulty. For the second one, you gotta go completely off course to get some treasure pieces. And now for the worst one by far, the level turns into a memory level. It's pretty complicated to explain in a short, so trust me, it's hard. Do you remember these kinds of levels? Well, since they were popping up like 11 years ago, I'm pretty sure you forgot about the UFO trend. It basically consisted of main levels played as the UFO. So you got UFO Madness, UFO on Track, UFO Guys, and so on. They were supposed to feel the same since you couldn't actually fly, but let's just say the Cube and UFO are two different game modes for a reason, right guys? Did you know that the UFO has a hidden mechanic? Everyone thinks all the UFO does is this Flappy Bird like jump, but in reality, it has this hidden mechanic that makes it similar to a ball, spider, and even a cube. You see, if you take a slope and place it exactly like this, a small bug happens. At first, it may look really dumb, like you're just hitting your head and nothing is happening. However, if you hold the click instead of just clicking, the UFO will stick to it. What is the most trolled level in Geometry Dash? The answer might seem kinda obvious. You've been trolled, or this very punchable music plays as we get obliterated, or even something like Troll level. However, that's more of a memory level than one that makes you want to break everything. Well, there's this one level called Goober Rage State, which is such a lovely level to play and chill, right? You even crush Mr. Mario. The Polar Guy ship part does not look like a ship part at all, so which game modes could still fit in there while still being possible? Let's first take the obvious game modes out of the way and focus on what actually matters. With the Cube and Robot, you've just got a tricky staircase at the end, but it's possible. As a ball, it's a little bit harder, but again, possible. Same thing for the spider, which is also surprisingly possible. So you can actually pass this part as any game mode. This level might look normal, however, you gotta die to beat it. This is Helping Hand, which, as you might imagine, is impossible to one attempt, and here's why. There are these glitchy spikes throughout the level where you're supposed to die, and if you do that on the next attempt, your corpse will serve as a block to move on. And that's not even all, because the same thing happens 4 different times. People love to joke around with this level's name, like Time Extreme by Vortrox, where each part is a different update, like an actual time machine. Or this one, where what you're seeing is actually happening 2 seconds later, again referring to a time machine. Or even this one right here, where the orbs change time, making it so slow that not even your ship works anymore. We finally found it, and there's no way we're wrong this time. You see, I've been trying to find something in Geometry Dash for a very long time, and since then, I've been posting videos of what I thought was it. Starting with Quickie, which has an idea of just 2,570, but somehow there was a level even older with that, called SJ Hell, with an idea of only 1,560. Now what we found this time is shocking. With an idea of only 481, this is the first non-clubstep monster in Geometry Dash. Last processing, or is it? If you pay close attention, you will notice that my icon is completely glitchy, and the particles are coming from above. Now up to here it could easily be overlooked. However, when you go into the wave portal, Yeah, I've already shown some crazy blast processing versions, but this one is for sure the simplest one. All of this is happening because of these two shaders. That's it. Oh yeah, let's not ignore this at the end also. Did you know that there's actually a way to farm stars? You see, everybody knows about the Gauntlet, where Robert selects some levels with some sort of theme and spotlight them there. Now this tab has an interesting property that not everybody knows. The levels there are not the exact same copy as the ones on the actual servers, which means that you can beat the level inside the Gauntlet and then beat it again on the servers, literally farming stars. The back on track ship art does not look like a ship art at all. So which game modes could actually fit in there? Well, with the cube, you can pass the entire first part, but you touch the spikes afterwards. Same thing with the robot. Now, if you play this part as a ball, it simply feels right, and it's completely possible. Let's get the obvious game modes out of the way and focus on this, the spider, where you gotta do these crazy clicks, but it's actually possible. This level is way harder than Thinking Space 2. It's something you would say if you hadn't played the game, but we all know that it just looks intimidating, while in reality, it simply plays like this. However, that can quickly change if you take a harder level. Just take a look at Limbo's layout. You already think this is too hard? Put the magic powder on it and make it top one. Club step, yeah, so this is a listen club step, and you probably got it by now. The music only plays when you're clicking. Now, if you think that's the most impressive part, just check out this dummy with 4,300 hours in the game, dying to the most obvious fake in all of Geometry Dash. Did you know that there's actually a way to farm demons? And it's actually pretty simple. So everybody knows about the weekly demon tab, but what not everybody knows is how it actually works. You might think it's obvious. It simply takes a level from the servers and spotlights it there. But that's not actually true. In reality, it creates a brand new copy of the level, which means that you can beat in the weekly tab and beat it again on the servers, literally farming demons. Dry out, but if you've got a huge hand to slap spikes with, hold just a second. That would be completely impossible. Just imagine a bunch of spikes being thrown into random spots. How would you even pass that? Now, the thing is, you can actually choose whether the spikes will kill you or not, which shouldn't even be a choice. But not only that, you also need to slap 150 in order to complete the level. Geometry Dash has one huge mystery that nobody really knows the answer to. In the past, I talked about this level, and thought I had finally figured it out, because it was made in the 1.0 update. But someone pointed out a level called SJ Hell, also made in the 1.0 update, but even before the other one. You see, people used to consider these creatures in Time Machine as the first ever club step monsters. However, in SJ Hell, we've got these dragons throughout, which might still be valid. Can you even beat this challenge? Well, actually you can, but have you ever felt Geometry Dash is way too hard sometimes? You wish you had a little help to get you through those impossible timings, especially in blast processing, which sits as one of the hardest levels in the entire game, and for a good reason. This level doesn't even look possible. Well, luckily for me, we've got blast helpfully, which is truly a game changer. The level generates itself as we play, but unfortunately, this only happens in this level right here. How cool would it be if that happened anywhere we wanted, right? Well, luckily we're blessed to live at the same time as the layout generator mod. Now, if you think this thing is going to generate an actual decent layout so you can decorate on top of it, well, that's not gonna happen. This is a spam challenge, or even better, it's a Topi challenge. Right, but what does that even mean? Well, sometimes people associate certain skills with certain people. For example, in the pasta challenges, where they require some crazy wave skills. Something very similar also happens here. This might seem like a Zoink challenge because of the absurd difficulty, but it's a Pimto challenge. Cool, now watch this or I'll find you and lock you in my basement. You can beat this level in just 3 clicks. Something similar also happens in this level, where there's just one jump. And in this one, if you play it in Lolly Tail mode. Now, if you play this level normally, it won't work. It's just gonna be another harder 7 stars level. But if you do a sequence of 3 very late clicks on this first star, you'll notice that the level becomes completely auto. And with that, you can get some free 7 stars. This is not exactly stereo madness. Confusing, right? Because it seems just like it. But you start understanding what's going on the moment you get to the ship part. Well, have you ever thought about what would happen if the ship game mode had not been added in the very first update? No? Well, I don't care, because this level tries to recreate that, changing the original ship parts into cube ones. As normal as this platformer level might seem, it was actually made while the 2.1 update was out. But how is that even possible? You see, before releasing the 2.2 update, Droptop delivered some copies of the new version to playtesters. And that's where it gets interesting, because these people had access to everything that came with the new version, including the level editor. And that's where this level comes from, making it the first ever platformer to be rated. People love to modify the main level, like making every single click in Stereo Man as a frame perfect. The person who did that must be so incredibly handsome and talented. But what about the yellow chick? This level that might look like Stereo Madness, but with this new bar. It actually adds events, with the rarity being displayed right there. So you can get a really common event like the Accurate Hitboxes one, or even a super rare event like the yellow chicken one. Anyone can beat an impossible level. As crazy as that might sound, sound, that's actually true. But I'm talking about one level in specific. You'll see, for most it's the 8th hardest impossible level in the game. And if you search for it in the servers, you will find this level uploaded by the creator themselves. Now, playing it normally, well, it's impossible. But if you go back and turn on low detail mode, this happens for some reason. The problem is that this is not the same version listed as the 8th hardest, probably because of that. Finger Dash is the main level that introduced many things to the game, such as the green and pink dash sharps and even the new spider game mode. But talking about those dash sharps, despite they working in very mysterious ways with the new swing game mode for example, people still use them pretty often. Like in this level for example, where all the dash sharps, green and pink ones, have a 50% chance of killing you in the level that introduced them. It might sound kinda crazy, but 1 in 512 isn't as bad as jump step for example, where it's 1 in order to get a rated level, you need pretty decent skill with gameplay and decoration. At least that's what most people think. But what about something like this? Even though the gameplay isn't the best and there's no actual decoration, the level is still rated. Well, why this happens might be obvious. The level is really old and for the time it was good. But what about this level? It was made in the 2.1 update, just like this one right here for example, and both got the same rating. Robert moment. How could you even beat this challenge? You can only jump once and it's 4 spikes long. Alright, wait, I have a feeling I've already done this.
Shh, just read the script and everything's gonna be alright.
Okay. So there is actually a bug with the UFO where you can hold the click and stick into the slope, allowing you to complete this challenge pretty easily. Can I go now? Hello? New Geometry Dash game mode. Starting off with the spinner, where it works similarly to a ship, but you keep wiggling around, rotating around. Followed by the blob, which reminds you of the spider, but you teleport through blocks. And we're not even done, because there's also the glide game mode, which is basically the cube in low gravity. There's also the bird, the shapeshift block, and my personal favorite, his wave-ish game mode. But instead of holding and releasing like usual, you just click. And they're all in this level. Yellow chicken versus the blob one. Son of the Flames. Let's go. The blob one starts with strong attacks, dropping the yellow chicken's life bar in half. That's not good. So the yellow chicken counterattacks with its magic yellow laser, dropping the blob one, Son of the Flames life bar to the absolute limit. The blob one tries to counterattack, but it's already too late. With a simple hit, the yellow chicken knocks down the blob one. We have a winner. People are saying this is the hardest level ever. Now, Geometry Dash is already a very hard game, which makes sense since it was inspired by a game literally called the Impossible Game. And that's exactly why it would make so much sense for this level to be the hardest ever. You see, there's another game called the world's hardest game, and that's where this level comes from. So think about it. A level inspired by the hardest game inside a game inspired by the Impossible Game. Mind blowing. The swing game mode actually has a bug. As you probably know, the green dash sharp obviously dashes you, but finishes at the same gravity you entered, which is what differs it from the pink dash sharp, since it finishes on the opposite gravity you entered. Now, if you do the same test with the swing, that's not the case. Notice how when you click you're pointing up, and since this is a green dash sharp, you should continue going up. But no, same thing with the pink dash sharp. Now, here you should change gravity, but that doesn't happen. You can beat this level in just one click, and unlike this level where you can also beat it with just one click and it's rated easy, meaning you only get 2 stars, this one is actually rated insane, giving you 8 stars. Now, here's how you do it. If you just play the level normally, it won't work, because in order to make this actually happen, you gotta turn on the level's low detail mode option, which will make the level look like this. There's gonna be one jump at 51% and you're done. Let's combine the cube and chip game modes into one. Okay. This is cursed mode, and in this level you can merge game modes. Like for example, ball plus cube, so now you have the one jump in the actual game, robot plus UFO, chip plus ball, fighter plus wave, and probably the most cursed one, wave plus swing. You can literally do anything, so go try it. This level was made by over 45,000 people. On November 11, 2024, Sputniks, a creator known for making anything but a Geometry Dash level, made a post saying, "Our place in a Geometry Dash platformer level starts in 4 days." This basically meant that a website would be hosted where anyone from around the entire world could build a Geometry Dash level at the same time. It got so big that even Roberto Topalo himself promoted the event. And so it began, lasting for 50 hours straight. This is the result you're seeing. Now the funny part is that this level can actually be beaten. You just have to reach the top right corner, which is not that easy but can be done. Bro, what? How could you even beat this challenge? You can only jump once and it's 4 spikes long. Oh right, since the hitboxes are accurate, you can just wiggle around to make the last spike disappear and complete it. Right, but what about the yellow chicken? Yeah, what about the yellow chicken? What about the yellow chicken? This demon is auto? Wait a second, how can a demon even be auto in the first place? I'm talking about the pressure, which at first already looks really unique, but you actually have to play like any other level. However, that's not what the comments are saying, because if you turn on an auto clicker, this happens for some reason. But that's cheating. It's literally the same thing as playing Bloodbath with no clip on and telling all your friends you beat it. Stereo Madness is an easy level. Back on Track is also an easy level. So if you combine both of them, what would happen? Well, this is Stereo on Track Flip, and it works like this. At first, you're playing Stereo Madness, but the moment you do your first click, the level switches to Back on Track. Now, if you think this is easy, you'd be very wrong. You have to hit frame perfects and even play certain parts in the wrong game mode just to survive. This is crazy. Did you know that in the early days of Geometry Dash, the level editor looked something like this? And somehow, that wasn't even the biggest problem, since people still managed to create amazing levels using only those two. The real issue was that creators couldn't even choose a song to make their level stand out. All they had were the main level songs. Custom community songs didn't get added until update 1.9. What do you think? Click 27 times? Wait, what's going on? Well, this is Clicky Adventures, and in this level, you have to click exactly the number of times the game tells you. That means in some parts you need to spam to reach the required number, while in others, you have to only use the necessary clicks. Because if you click more than you're supposed to, you die. And the same thing happens if you click less, which makes the entire level way harder. Go try it. This demon has something very wrong with it. At first glance, it looks like a normal easy demon you'd see around. But in reality, it's not just one of the first demons ever made, full of fakes and some pretty tricky jumps. It's also not even a demon. Wait, what? I'm talking about Extreme Disaster, a level that's actually rated easy, and yeah, a lot of that gameplay comes from it. Would you try it? This level adds a countdown to Stereo Madness. Let me explain. I'm talking about Y level madness, which might look really easy at first, but it's actually not. In this level, you can stay at the same Y level for more than 1 second. So that means you have to jump in places you normally wouldn't, but that's not even the worst part. This countdown also means you can strafe fly. So every ship section ends up looking like this. What do you think? This level gives you 3 stars. I'm talking about 3 stars, which is pretty self-explanatory. But here's the weirdest part. Once you open it, you will notice that this isn't a usual level with gameplay and decoration. It's actually a story about a cube that once you get some 3 stars from this guy, they chat for a while and eventually the cube gets its 3 stars, and so do you. Go get them. Zelda gets way more interesting when you notice you can do this. Check this out. Right at the very start, you can skip the pad and even the cube portal ahead, playing the entire pre-drop and drop as a mini wave. Then in the ball part, you can skip the last orb. In the robot section, you can ignore a bunch of portals, including the one that leads into the next ball. Now, here's where it gets crazy. In this mini cube, you can skip basically every single blue orb, and right when you switch to the robot, I don't even know how to describe this. That's insane. This level coins suck, and I'm being so serious. I'm talking about 26, which you can obviously just ignore the coins and beat a nice simple 6-star level, but if you actually go for them, well, first of all, you can't even get all 3 in a single attempt. You have to beat the level 3 separate times, each in a completely different way, and that includes a wave spam, a perfect strafe fly, an ultra buffed ball section, and even a frame perfect at the end. Go try it. While this level may look like blast processing, you might have noticed something different. Check this out. It's decorated exactly like blast processing. The sections look almost identical when you put them side by side, but if you paid close attention to the details, you might probably already know what's going on here. I'm talking about jumper processing, a level that plays like jumper, but it's decorated exactly like blast processing. What do you think? This level changed everything, but how, you might ask me? Well, I'm talking about Quickie, a level that at first might not seem like there's much going on. But here's the thing, despite being the first hard-rated level in the entire game, posted over 12 years ago in the very first Geometry Dash update, it also has a detail. Just take a look at this. Eclipse that monster, and this is even before Time Machine introduced that one monster people called the first. What do you think? Time Machine is infamous for introducing something that everyone absolutely loves, the Mirror Pearl. Because of that, Mirror Machine came in to blast the Geometry Dash player. But how, you might ask? Well, what better way than making everything trigger the mirror effect? So check this out. You click an orb, mirror. You touch a pad, mirror. Go through any portal, mirror. Do you like it? This level might look normal until... Wait, you just no-clipped it? Well, not exactly. I'm talking about Vertigo, a level that right at the start greets you with a random number. And what it does with the number is what makes it an extreme demon. You'll see, the number you get actually determines how much the entire level will be displaced. So here, for example, the level is shifted 14 steps to the left, but that's not even the real problem. This number keeps changing constantly as the level goes on. What do you think? Did you know that Polargeist actually has a lot of frame perfect? Let me explain. That might sound insane at first, since Polargeist is only the 3rd main level in the game, being mostly known for introducing orbs for the first time. And that's exactly where things get interesting. Normally, you'd just jump, click the orb, and make it through. But what you can also do is completely ignore the orbs by pulling off this frame perfect. And that's not even all. At this part, instead of doing this, you can do this. What do you think? Everybody hates the first memory level, but why? Well, I'm talking about Dora by Findway, which at first glance may look pretty normal. Nothing that would justify those 39k dislikes at least. But here's the thing. This isn't just a giant maze that you have to memorize, which is what most people hated about it. It was actually the first level to become popular for doing that. Do you think it deserves the hate? This jump might look completely impossible, because no matter what you do, you always add to the last block. But here's the thing. Not all game modes behave the same way when they hit a pad. Even the ones that look similar don't actually work the same. Take the cube and robot. They look pretty alike, but they're actually very different. So if you switch from the cube to the robot, you can easily land on top of the structure. Really cool. Everyone loves the 1.9 update. Let me explain. Back in 1.8, the game only had a few game modes. You had a cube and ball on the ground, and the ship and UFO in the air. So when 1.9 was announced, people were really expecting a new game mode, especially since the last one had been added back in 1.5. And when it released with blast processing, you might already know what came along with it. The most loved game mode in the entire game, the wave. What do you think? Am I playing back on track? Because something feels off. Well, this is actually back on track optimized, and it looks this weird because the level went from 1,545 objects down to only 197. To make that work, most of the blocks were stretched like crazy, even causing this visual bug to happen. And the spikes were mostly turned into these hitbox blocks. Now you can probably play it even on your Potato Tron 5000. Even though this level feels like an easy demon, its actual rating might surprise you. And here's why. At first glance, you'd probably guess it's a medium demon then. And if you thought that, you're just like everyone else, because there's no way this level is harder than a medium demon, right? Well, in reality, it's rated as a hard demon, and many players even consider it the second easiest in the category, right behind the pressure. What do you think? Stereo Madness can be really interesting when you notice this. Alright, so this is not Stereo Madness, where am I? This place looks slightly familiar for some reason. But hey, there's a door there and a pot sign? Don't let it see you. Okay, saw me. No, you're not getting fried chicken for the dinner today. Oh my gosh, it's a stick bug. No way. Should gameplay orbs be added to Geometry Dash? Check this out. The way that works is pretty simple. Just like any other orb in the game, you click and your game mode changes. But you might be thinking,
Oh, that would only be useful in platformer levels.
well, not really. Just imagine a memory level with gameplay orbs. Right now, for example, you either avoid or enter portals. But what if you could choose exactly what you need to progress? That would be insane. I have to beat this entire level, filled with triple spikes, moving obstacles, and even straight flies while blindfolded. But that sounds kinda impossible, right?
Because of that, I'll be getting Pimto every step of the way. So he has to listen carefully to what I say and do exactly what I tell him, since this level shows no mercy.
Yeah, you should watch this. The most important Geometry Dash mechanic was introduced by this level. Let me explain. Almost every old Geometry Dash level has one thing in common, and it's also the reason why many people hate them. Even in today's levels, this mechanic is still very common, especially with the random trigger. Though now, it's used in a much better way. I'm talking about Zora by Choose Way, the first level that allowed players to choose between different paths. What do you think? What happens if you turn on layout mode and play back on track? Let's see. Well, again, there are no color changes, and that makes the level feel very similar to Stereo Madness. The drop has absolutely zero impact, and the level just becomes overall boring. But somehow, that's not even the worst part. Just check out this ship section. The structures are completely bare bones, and the coin one is just floating now. Really boring. This level gives 3 stars. Let me explain. I'm talking about Endzlight, which looks like a platformer level, but it's not actually one. It was made in 2.1, so in reality, it's just a gimmick. And here's where you can cheat. You can play it the intended way, going through the obstacles and beating it, or you can simply do nothing. I'm not kidding, literally nothing. You'll still earn 6 stars at the end. Pretty cool. The accurate hitboxes coin suck. Let me show you. The first one is pretty simple. You just jump and grab it. The real problem is the ones ahead. You'll come across this stray fly that feels completely impossible, and that's because the hitboxes are accurate. So what do? Well, you go into the editor, make all of them negative, and finally grab the coin. Now the last one is diabolical. You find this evil geo that basically forces you to complete a small challenge just to get the last coin. What do you think? This level used to be impossible. Let me explain. I'm talking about Project J, which at first glance doesn't look that hard, right? I mean, it's just a medium demon. But people back in the day strongly disagreed with that, with many calling it completely impossible. But that's not the main issue. It got so bad in the past, and now it sits as the 3rd most disliked level in the entire game. What do you think? Something's definitely wrong with Time Machine. Check this out. I'm talking about actual Time Machine, which looks just like the original, but there's a small twist. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that I'm clicking with a slight delay. So it's like you're seeing the future. That's because the level's entire hitbox is shifted by 2 blocks in actual Time Machine. What do you think? This level has infinite levels inside of it. Let me explain. I'm talking about Loop Express, which at first just looks like an usual level. But when you accidentally die and restart, you start to notice something's off. The entire gameplay and colors are completely different, and that's not by accident. In this level, every single new attempt is completely unique. Nobody in the entire world will play it the same way you did. How is this not rated, Robtop? Playing your Geometry Dash levels, part 2. Today's level comes from Right, and it's called Silent Problematic, which, yeah, it's silent problematic, but that's not all. This level hides something. The entire wave is played in me mode, and most of the parts weren't even changed at all, aside from a few random impossible sections. But here's the secret. Right at the very beginning, yeah, there is a secret way. Everyone is wrong about this level's difficulty. Let me explain. I'm talking about Eon, which some people call the easiest extreme demon in the game. But here's the problem. At first glance, it kind of makes sense, right? But in reality, reality, it's placed really close to Bloodbath. And why is that? Well, people are ignoring one huge detail. This level is almost an hour long, and the hardest part, it's right at the very end, 53 minutes in. What do you think? Does this level look like a demon to you? Well, believe it or not, it is. Being called Machine Deluxe. And pretty much everyone agrees this is one of the easiest demons in the entire game, even though the creator thinks it's a medium demon. But that's not even the main problem. A lot of people are saying this level doesn't even deserve to be rated, since it looks so low effort and copy-pasted. What do you think? Every single triple spiking time machine now has a 20% chance of killing you. But hold up, it's not that hard, let me show you. Hearing that sounds pretty insane. And even though the chances of actually beating this are about 0.1%, making progress on it isn't that challenging, since Time Machine has this huge section without triple spikes, which helped me get this pretty crazy run right here. Really cool. This new orb is getting added to Geometry Dash. Let me explain. Recently, I found this level called Custom Orbs 2, and RubTop even left a little message on the level. It introduces a bunch of new orb concepts like the Drift Orb, Dual Mode Orb, and the Wiggle Waggle Orb, but that's not the interesting part. Apparently, RubTop enjoyed this Yellow Dash Orb, where when you release, you get launched just like you click the Yellow Orb. I really like the Yellow Dash Orb. Everyone is going crazy about this level. Wait, haven't I made this video already? Well, something I didn't know and that you guys pointed out is just how many versions of Ashley Wave Trials there are on the servers. It's completely insane. There's Ashton Ship Trials where you play as a ship, it's blue and there's Ashton. Hardest Game Trials where you play the hardest game and you're actually a wave. Ashton Ball Trials where you play as a ball, it's gray and there's Ashton. The original Ashley Wave Trials, and holy moly, there's a ton of them. This glitch completely breaks Geometry Dash. Check this out. All you've gotta do is grab your phone and open the game. Now go to the main levels and swipe like this so you can see two of them at the same time. Then just click on them. At first it might look like we've just opened Stereo Madness, but hey, you just died to nothing. And that's not even all. On the next attempt, everything is completely invisible. Oh, GeoGD already made this. The 7 Seas hides a secret. Check this out. At first glance it might look pretty normal.
Hey Pimto.
Bluesky, I'm showcasing the level. What are you doing here?
Oh, I just wanted you to see my new superpower.
Huh?
Alright Pimto, go find me.
Bluesky, what the heck are you doing? Okay, so there's one here. How did you get there? That's a frame perfect, Bluesky.
What do you mean? It's my superpower.
Alright, one here. Okay, so now you're upside down. You know what? Sure. Another one here. And now you're flying, bro?
Oh hey, I'm just ascending to heaven. Don't mind me.
This level has 5,000 different levels in it. I'm talking about Tabby, which already looks amazing at first glance, but gets even better when you understand how it works. You can easily miss the secret nether and end portals, and each one has an entirely new section inside. Now about the randomization, every new attempt hides a different detail in the level, like this little creature which can sometimes appear upside down. Which one of these two paths is the hardest? You might say the bottom one. After all, doing a straight fly looks way harder than anything on the top path, but when you reach the end, you can't get through. Or can you? You see, the bottom path is actually much easier. That's because on the top path, you'd have to straight fly right through the middle of those blocks to make it. And with that, any small mistake will instantly get you clipped onto them. Really cool. Everyone is going crazy about this level, and here's why. I'm talking about Ashton Ball Trial, which at first might not look that interesting. It just seems like an Ashley Wave Trials copy, but it's not as simple. The level introduces a new character. Instead of the usual pink theme, everything is now gray, and you play the entire level as a ball instead of a wave. Now here's the problem. You have to be completely ball carried to beat this level. Go give it a try. Clutter Funk, but it's literally cluttered and very funky. Check this out. I'm talking about Cluttered Funk, which is actually really simple. It takes the original level and completely messes it up by adding a bunch of random moving blocks.
Pimto, but isn't it impossible?
Well, not really. Even though it might seem that way, the new structures don't actually have hitboxes. They're just there to confuse you. Wow. Am I playing Stereo Madness? Well, something feels off. That's because this is actually Stereo Madness optimized. And it looks super goofy because there's only 270 objects in the entire level. To make that happen, a lot of the blocks actually move with you. And the spikes, some follow you like the blocks, while others have just turned it into boring boxes. But what happens if you turn on layout mode? This is the hardest coin in Geometry Dash. It's in Sonic Wave Unlimited, which is already an insane demon, but going for the coin turns it into a least demon. And here's why. You have to play the entire ball as a buffed swing copter, and in the wave, even skip a size change portal. But that's not even the worst part, because you have to hit a blind frame perfect, pass an invisible section, and after all of that, you gotta beat a wave challenge, so only then you can get the coin. Would you try it? What happens if you turn on layout mode and play Stereo Madness? There's no color changes, but looks good so far. Now, a bit further in, the structures are completely bare bones. Just take a look at this transition. The ship section is blue, there are no more fake blocks for the coin, and every single block is now floating. No more chains holding them up. But the weirdest part is definitely the last ship. Just take a look at it. What if Tidal Wave and Deadlocked were the same level? Well, we've got Tidal Locked to answer that. At first, it looks just like a decorated version of Deadlock, but that changes once you reach the wave part. You play it and look, the original ship section is now a wave, and the same thing happens with the ball. But when you beat the level, you get an ad because slop levels have to use the end screen to promote merge. Can you beat Jumper while playing the entire level as a wave? It starts off really chill, the gaps are wide and you can even skip some portals. There are a few tight sections, but that all disappears once you reach this ship part. And now for the hardest section, it's nearly impossible but actually doable. After that, it's just a bunch of chill sections, so yeah, it is possible. Dry out, but you literally dry out. Check this out. I'm talking about Turnstile, a level that adds this number next to your icon, and the way it works is pretty simple. The more you jump, the more the number decreases. Because of that, you have to keep collecting these water bottles, otherwise you're gonna dry out. But it's not that simple. The bottles are placed in some pretty inconvenient spots, so good luck grabbing them. Does this look like a rock top level to you? Well, it might seem like can't let go, but not really, because we're in hard mode. Right at the start, you'll see a bunch of timings. In the first coin route is a blind jump. Awesome. Then comes the ship section where you can get the second coin. But this is where it gets really hard. You have to jump here and start spamming immediately to collect the last coin. Really hard. This level lets you no clip. Check this out. I'm talking about iPhone Redux, which at first might look really easy, but that changes when you reach this wave part. That doesn't look easy, right? Well, in reality, it's completely free. But if you haven't noticed, something happened. The only way to get this levels coin is by completing the entire wave section without no clipping even once. That's insane. People hate the first Geometry Dash update. Let me explain. Back in 1.0, the game only had a few gameplay mechanics. The cube and ship game modes, the yellow orb, gravity portals, and that's basically it. So going into 1.0, you would expect something like a new game mode, or maybe a new orb variation. But when it released with Time Machine, you might already know what came along with it. One of the most hated things in the entire game, the mirror portal. Do you like it? This level adds a brand new game mode to Geometry Dash. I'm talking about Ocean Dive, which at first might look like a normal level you'd see around. But once you reach this part, everything changes. A submarine game mode. It works like a mix between a UFO and a ship. If you just tap, it does a UFO style jump. But if you click and hold, it keeps going like a ship. Go try it. Stereo Madness becomes way more interesting when you notice this. Check it out. Everyone thinks you can't land on this platform, but you actually can with a 720 frame perfect. Now this one is insane. It might look impossible to die during this transition, but you actually can by clipping through the block with the ship. You can also get a coin in a pretty unconventional way, and you can even die to the very last block of the level. Really cool. Dear Robtop, I just want to take a moment to appreciate your work for this game.
Pimto, what are you talking about?
Oh yeah, I'm just reading a message to Robtop, which from the beginning looks like a weird level, but somehow becomes more and more obvious as it goes on, with nearly invisible clicks. But it gets even worse when you notice who made it. Here's the goal. The Skeletal Shenanigans coins suck, and I'm gonna prove it. The first one isn't that bad, you just land on these blocks and grab it. The real problem is the second one. You have to avoid this mini portal and pull off an insane timing to get it. Now the third one, right in the middle of the boss fight, there's a black hole.
Hello Pimto, welcome to the third coin. You just gotta pass this little challenge I made specifically for you. Enjoy.
This level is not what it looks like. Check this out. It starts off like a regular level. A few blind jumps, but nothing too crazy. That's it until you reach the drop. Flying saws, invisible hitboxes, orbs, and then you just die. Because there are even more invisible hitboxes there. So what's actually going on here? Well, I'm talking about Love Baba by Zobros? What are you doing, bro? What if the Geometry Dash camera was static but still try to follow you? Well, that's exactly what this level does. It takes a blast processing and completely ruins it with this horrendous camera. Basically, everything turns into a blind jump. Oh my god, the spike. The coins become a little impossible. Oh my god, how is it? And the memory part turns into prediction. How am I supposed to know what's going on? Really terrible. Everyone is going crazy over this stereo madness. I'm talking about troll madness, and it's definitely not the kind of troll level you're used to. Let me show you this. In this part, you have to turn into a spike, but instead of progressing, you can go reverse and literally exit the level. And that's not even all. The ship part turns into deadlocked, there's a dash spider part out of nowhere, the entire level floods, and you even get teleported to Tartarus. And if all of that wasn't enough, check out this coin route. Oh Oh my god. At first glance, it looks like I'm just playing base after base. But am I really? Well, that's it until you see this 240 FPS frame perfect to grab a coin. So what's going on here? I'm actually playing base after base, but in a hard mode. And yeah, it's way harder than normal with a lot of crazy timings and everything. But the most interesting part is the coins. The first and second ones are pretty chill, just normal coins. Now the third one, you can't take the normal route, it's literally impossible. So instead, you have to pull off this 240 FPS frame perfect. Would you try it? This level hides a secret, and that's not even the most interesting part. I'm talking about LVL, an epic short level, but how? Well, at first, it might not seem like there is much going on. You just select levels, beat them, and replay. But what you might not have noticed is that something is watching you. And that becomes more and more clear as you progress all the way to the final level, where you come face to face with it. Choose one of the endings and complete the level. Pretty cool. Geometry Dash is a weird game. Check this out. The skill part looks completely impossible. If you don't click, you die to the spikes on the ground. And if you click, you just get teleported. So how do you even beat it? Well, in reality, you need to double click these orbs. Now this next part is even worse. There's an opening there, but you can't just jump through it. And the dash orb looks like it sends you straight into those spikes. Or does it? You actually need to use the dash orb so that this happens for some reason. Really cool. If you play this level normally and reach the end, you just die to a bunch of sauce. So how do you beat it? I'm talking about Catastrophic, which at first glance might look way easier than it should be. And here's why. You can skip the speed change portal to play the entire wave at 0.5 speed, and even skip a bunch of orbs in the boss section. But it's not as simple. You need to take the hardest paths possible to actually beat the level. What do you think? Electromid Adventures can be played in a really interesting way. Let me show you. Right, start, you can take the coin route and completely ignore the coins. Then in the ship part, you can go straight through the sauce. And that's not even the most interesting part. You can skip 2 pads here and even cancel this one during the transition. But that's nothing compared to this part, where you pull off a frame perfect with the UFO. And later on, you can even go under the portals, completely breaking the level, staying in mirror mode all the way to the end. Pretty cool. This level coin is insane. Let me show you. I'm talking about Megalodon, which at first might look like just a normal level you'd see around. But if you decide to go for the coin, everything changes. Instead of taking the easy path here, you have to collect the hidden card down below. Then in this wave part, instead of just passing through, you need to take a secret path. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of riding this elevator, you break it and go through a completely different route. And finally, instead of a giant helicopter chasing you, you just have to avoid the orange circles and grab the coin. Would you try it? Geometry Dash is a weird game. Let me show you. Passing through this part with a ball seems impossible. You'd simply die to those spikes, or if you click, to the structure itself. But in reality, you can transfer the physics from the cube to the ball by simply clicking before changing game modes. Now this one is way more confusing. If you simply don't click, you will die to the spikes at the ceiling. And if you click, you'll be instantly dead by the spikes in the ground. So to pass this, you actually need to click and hold the blue orb. Really cool. It looks like I'm just playing Knock'em, but why are there shapes that gives you points now? Let me explain. I'm talking about Nag'em, which seems just like Knock'em, but with a little twist. Now there are 2 different shapes throughout the entire level, and how they work is very simple. The hexagon gives you points, while the circles take your points away. Now that might sound pretty easy.
Oh, Pimto, just don't touch the circles.
But if you really want to do that, you have to play the level in a completely different and much harder way. Would you try it? While this level might look like dry out, in reality it's a bit more interesting than that. I'm talking about dry out, but in hard mode, which as expected, it's way harder. Or is it? Right at the beginning, you can notice the absurd amount of triple spikes there throughout the entire level. And that's not even all. For the ship part, instead of just these blocks, now they have spikes and yeah, that's it. Spikes. You can play the level normally and it won't seem like anything's wrong, but there actually is. I'm talking about Air, a level that looks really easy at first, just what you'd expect from a 2-star. But here's the interesting part. If you haven't noticed, this level actually has coins, and that's where the real challenge begins. You have to spam at the beginning to collect a key, avoid these glowing spikes, get put in dual mode, hit an invisible trigger, collect these 2 keys, and activate every single invisible trigger in the UFO. And if that wasn't enough, remember the ship part? Yeah, it's buffed. Pass it, and only then you can finally get your coin. Would you try it? Cycles can be played in a really interesting way. Let me show you. Right at the beginning of the level, you can actually click some of these fake orbs and still make it through. But that's not even the best part. In the ball section, you can play around the corner of the blocks and even land on top of these slopes, for example. Now, here's the coolest part. In the last ball section, instead of avoiding the pad and the gaps, you can cancel the pad and just ignore them completely. Really cool. Power Trip, but wait. Trick points? What does that even do? Well, this is Power Trick, a level that adds these trick boxes. If you touch them, you earn points, but it's not as simple. Something in the level will change to make it way harder. Like in this wave part, for example. If you touch the trick box, it turns into a mini wave section. And the craziest one is the last part. I don't remember you having this many timings. What do you think? Levels like this take thousands of hours to create. Because of that, some creators challenge themselves to make them as fast as possible, like my friend Gio.
Exactly, I'm creating Pink Nebula for example, and in just a couple of hours, the level already looks like this.
Yeah, but the problem is that these kinds of levels never look as good as the ones you actually spend time on. So just imagine the monstrosity this duck-looking thing made in just 1 hour.
Right, Pimto?
Yeah, you should watch this. This level has 8 different endings, and 2 of them are completely free. I'm talking about Permafrost Mountain, which, if played normally, just ends in this cave. But if instead you pick up these ice axe along the way, you can reach this house and unlock another ending. Now for the free ones. If you click 150 times at the beginning, you won't even play the level and just get a free demon. Or you can skip this robot portal, jump onto these logs, get stuck on them, and earn a free demon that way. You could probably say I'm playing Polar Guys, but take a closer look. Does this look normal to you? That's because it is Polar Guys, but in hard mode. And as you might expect, that this version is way harder.
Oh, Pimto, it doesn't look that hard.
Well, let me show you. It has this tricky fake pads that doesn't even look fake, some pretty awkward timings, and the worst of all, spikes everywhere. Turn the corners of structures, plus a ton of triple spikes. Would you give it a try? Back on track, but you have to balance a ball in your head? Exactly, I'm talking about back on balancing, which might not seem like a big deal at first, but in reality, I would say it turns back on track into an extreme demon. If you jump, the ball leads to the right, and clicking with player 2 makes it lead to the left. So as you can imagine, things get really crazy, especially during the ship part. This is some 200 IQ stuff.
Definitely not for me.
As you all know, Geometry Dash hitboxes are not exactly what they look like. Because of that, you can do stuff that looks completely impossible. This ball part, for example, looks unplayable. You'd either die to those spikes or hitting the blocks. But in reality, you can actually double click to land on top of these blocks. Same thing here. Looks impossible. You'd just hit the pad and die immediately. But you can cancel the pad by simply clicking with it and pass. And the most classic Geometry Dash peculiarity is to teleport with ramps. Really cool. If you play this level normally and reach the end, you'll be instantly killed by these invisible saws. So how do you even beat it? I'm talking about Necromancer, a level that hides a secret gimmick, so let's break it down. You can play it normally all the way to this cube section. This is where you need to pay attention. If you pause the game at just the right moment here, you can actually see the touch trigger they activate those saws. And that basically means the level is forcing you to go through this frame perfect gap, avoiding the touch trigger in order to actually beat it at the end. What do you think? What if Griff had coins? What would they be like? Well, for the first one, you'd have to go through this teleport portal and complete the entire old Griff pre-drop. But it gets way more interesting. See this transition? Yeah, you'd have to go to the moon and beat the challenges waiting for you there. Once you're back right at the end of the level, just go through the monster's mouth, dodge the scary spikes, and grab your final coin. Really easy. This is the most random thing I've ever seen in a level. Let me show you. I'm talking about a live 6-star level. Keep that in mind. At first glance, it looks pretty normal, just what you'd expect from a harder level. But the real problem is waiting ahead. Right when you're about to finish the level, yeah. And if you haven't noticed, that's a stray fly in a 6-star level created by Kermal, obviously. MFS once had and still has a secret way. Let me explain. Near the end of the level, you could go through this spot and stick to the ceiling, skipping the entire ending. But here's the problem. That eventually got patched by adding a new saw hitbox there. So is that it? Well, not really. You can still pull off the same trick between the saws and skip the entire ending again. Now the real question is, you're already at the end of MFS.
Why would you even try a secret way?
If I told you this level is a demon, would you believe me? Well, I'm talking about the Farewell. No, not Flamo. And even though this level looks like a literal 2-star, it's actually rated as a demon.
Oh, Pimto, there's gotta be a catch.
Well, kind of. Because this level lasts for 4 minutes straight, with the only slightly challenging part being this dark section. Other than that, it's just a really long 2-star level. And yeah, 2017 was 9 years ago. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Back on track on hard mode is insane. Let me show you. Starting off, the first click is a triple spike. Like, chill. The classic fake pet section is now way more buffed, and every single coin is red because we're in hard mode and red means evil. Well, the ship part is basically the same, aside from the coin round. There's one single triple spike later on, and the rest is just back on track. Where's the hardness? I feel scammed. What you're looking at is a secret Geometry Dash main level. Let me explain. I'm talking about Active, a level that was originally supposed to release in update 1.5. But here's the problem. As you might know, Theory of Everything took its place, pushing it to the next update where Electroman Adventures ended up being released instead. So where did Active go? There were seemingly no updates or solid information about the level, and that eventually led to the creation of this online version. What do you think? How impossible is Broken Stereo Menace? The furthest you can actually get from 0 is just 16%. But even if you ignore that, you'll die again at the ship transition because you can't reach it. Let's say you somehow could. You'd be able to play the whole section normally and even grab a coin before eventually dying here. Ignoring those spikes, you could pick up another coin only to die to basically the same thing again. But if we pretend you're still alive, you can make it into the final ship part, into the coin route, which is triple the original size, and finally beat it. What do you think? Both this and this level have the same difficulty. Can you guess what it is?
Oh, Pimto, it's probably hard, right?
Not even close. Both levels are rated auto, even though, well, they're not exactly auto. And here's the interesting part. They are among the most disliked levels in the entire game game because of that. But why does this happen in the first place? You see, these levels are pretty old, and back then, 1 star actually meant easy, not auto. What do you think? There's something wrong with this level, have you noticed it? I'm talking about something wrong. Wow. In this level, you're going to hit as many spikes as possible to earn points. And it's not just spikes, hitting orbs also gives you points. And each one is worth 3.
But Pimto, why would I want these points?
Well, you will need them to collect the levels coins. After defeating a giant TV boss, this is actually pretty cool. The ice spy with my little eye coins suck, and I'm gonna prove it. For the first coin, you have to hit this blue orb, which teleports you into the reverse Stereo Menace coin path. Finish it, and things get pretty crazy. In the spider part, if you look closely, there's a small coin hidden there. Go between the structures and grab it. And for the worst one, there's a coin on the screen right now. Can you spot it? No, because you'd have to be completely insane to jump out expecting something here. What do you think? This stray fly is in an insane level, and I'm not even joking. I'm talking about Bloodbath, but no, like, literally. It's a level inspired by, well, obviously Bloodbath, but here's the interesting part. It's considered the easiest insane level in the game.
But Pimto, what about the stray fly you mentioned? That's not even close to being easy.
Glad you asked, because there is a stray fly in the level, but it has no hitboxes. It's only there to scare you. This bottom can easily break any Geometry Dash level. Let me explain. I'm talking about the aligned bottoms, and the reason they break levels is actually pretty simple. Their function is to space objects evenly, and they're usually used to align simple things. But it gets interesting when you select an entire level and use this tool. It completely breaks the level and often makes it unplayable. What do you think? This level is the easiest medium demon and an insane demon at the same time, and that's not even the most interesting part. I'm talking about Hello Fitzgerald, hosted by Mr. Made. At first glance, it looks like a really easy medium demon, but here's where it gets interesting. The coins are so hard that they basically turn the level into an insane demon. But how? Well, you have to play this UFO section like this, the wave section in mini mode, and the craziest one, you have to do a stray fly for several seconds. Would you even try them? The lighting road is actually very buggy, let me show you. Right at the start, you can skip a bunch of pads and even this gravity portal. And those aren't even the craziest ones. You can skip the ball portal and play this section as a cube for a while, but this next one completely breaks the level. You can skip another ball portal and play a good portion of the level as a ship, then skip yet another ball portal again, and at the end, you can skip this pad and still beat the level anyway. What do you think? This level is the complete opposite of an auto level. Let me explain. This is brainless, and while in auto levels, all you have to do is nothing. In this level, you have to hold the click the entire time. Once you do that, the level basically plays itself as long as you keep holding. And that's not even all. There's a small click here that you need to do yourself, but aside from that, just hold the click. 3 stars. Cool. This level is not what it looks like, and here's why. I'm talking about don't rate this level, which, guess what? It's actually rated. At the beginning, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it. Just what you'd expect from a 5-star level. But there's a small detail. As the level goes on, you start noticing a lot of blind clicks, and the gameplay gets pretty weird. And it only gets worse, because the last thing you have to do is, yeah, get through this wave section. Would you try it? How difficult is this Stereo Menace on hard mode? Let's find out. We're not even 10% in, and there's already a triple spike. This looks bad. Then we get into the ship part, and there's spikes everywhere, but it only gets worse. Now, there's only one way to collect the first coin. The nerf the triple spike is now an actual triple spike, and there is even a crazy timing to grab the second coin. But this part was completely unnecessary. Right when you are about to collect the last coin, that's scary. What if I told you this is actually Geometry Dash?
Oh, Pimto, so you're talking about a 3D game that looks like Geometry Dash, right?
No, really, Mr. Dumb. This is an actual level inside the game.
Oh, okay, so you're using that 3D mod, right?
No, bro, this is literally vanilla Geometry Dash, no mods at all. Well, maybe an entire game engine that converts triggers into programming language behind it, but just a small detail. This level is auto, but it's rated as a 4-star? Let me explain. This is Better Place, and why it might look like there's a lot going on here, in reality, it's all auto. But why is it rated hard, you might ask? Well, there are actually only 4 clicks you need to do. 2 on the first bridges, hold the dash orb, and hold during the ship part. That's it. If you ignore the rest of the gameplay, you will beat it anyway. What do you think? This level is an extreme demon and a 6-star at the same time. Let me explain. I'm talking about Scorched Scalp, a level that at first glance perfectly fits the difficulty it's rated at. But this is where things get weird. You can simply take the bottom path to grab the coin or do this for some reason. Just take a look at the second coin, but the real focus here is the third one, where you have to go through this just to collect a key and then do the same thing again to actually collect the coin. Would you try this? The Nightmare coins suck, and I'm gonna prove it. First, there is this ridiculous coin right at the beginning where you're forced to die. Then come back with ancient powers just to continue the attempt. But it only gets worse. In the middle of the level, you have to click an invisible orb that teleports you to a hidden cube section, where the fake cube turns into a coin for you to grab. And then there's the least bad one. You just jump into the secret opening, beat a quick little challenge, and collect the final coin. There's the mini size portal, the normal size portal, and a giant size portal. Let me explain. I'm talking about Sizefall, a level that introduces this brand new giant size portal.
Oh, Pimto, but there's a mod that does the exact same thing.
Not quite, Mr. Dumb. That mod only changes the player size. The hitboxes stay the same. And this level is way crazier. It uses a series of triggers to make the hitboxes as accurate as possible when you're in the giant size. What do you think? This looks exactly like Stereo Madness until you grab the first coin and realize something's off. But the weirdest part is when you're about to finish the level, suddenly you're playing back on track? What is going on? Well, this is Roberto Travel. In this level, you have to beat every single Geometry Dash main level back to back. And yes, that means if you die anywhere in the middle, you go all the way back to Stereo Madness. Would you try this? The Bloodbath coins suck, and I'm gonna prove it. Let's start simple. There's a coin on the screen right now. Can you spot it? No, because you'd have to be crazy to take this invisible teleport portal with negative hitboxes to get the ancient invisible coin hidden behind the monster. And that's not even the craziest one. In the Michigan part, you can jump right in the middle of the triple spike and get your coin. And the third one...
Wait, Pimto, these are my pills!
What do you mean? I'm just showing them the bloodbath. Wait, where are they? You cannot explode your level. Let me explain. This is Kablamo, and if you think exploding stuff is the only thing you can do with this mod, you're very wrong. You can go into Tone 618 and create an actual Tone 618. You can go into the most terrifying level ever and make it colorful and beautiful, and even transform anything into a random ID. What do you think? There's something weird going on with these speed portals. Have you noticed it? I'm talking about this odd double orange portal.
Oh, Pimto, is this another one of those custom portal levels you've shown 1,000 times?
Well, here's the interesting part. It's not. This is actually an official design made by Roberto himself. What I don't know is whether it was meant to be lower than 0.5 speed or just the same speed with a different look. What do you think? Tidal Wave has a free wave part, and I'm not even joking. You see, the version I have on the servers today isn't actually the same one Zoink verified. Long story short, the fixes Zoink made are in this version, and that includes the saws he placed here to prevent you from skipping this part. Without them, you cannot just skip the speed change portal and play this entire wave section at 0.5 speed. You still died after it, but regardless, what do you think? Which difficulty would you guess for this level? A demon maybe? It looks pretty hard to understand what's going on. Well, you might be surprised to know that this level is actually an auto level.
Oh, Pimto, so the gameplay you're showing is auto then?
Here's the interesting part, not really. You see, this level is pretty old and was probably uploaded before the auto difficulty was added in 1.6. And back then, 1 star actually meant easy, not auto. This level turns Time Machine into an actual time machine, and you might recognize it. This is Time Extreme, a buffed and decorated version of Time Machine created by Mr. Made. Every new section in this level represents a different Geometry Dash update, like this part filmed around the 1.6 tile. Then you've got 1.9, 2.0, early 2.1, all the way to the 2.2 pixelated style. What do you think? You can get over 8 free achievements just by beating this level. I'm talking about... Actually, I'm not saying all of that. And it's a really interesting level because it just crashed my game completely. So I'll have to showcase it on my phone. It looks pretty normal, just a regular chill 4-star level. But when you complete it... Oh, Challenger. Nice. Bounce. Okay. Wait, 334, 709 jumps? I like jumping. You jump like a pro. Whatever that is. Can't stop jumping. Jumper. You need to rest. Yeah, it's definitely do. This mod lets you click between frames.
That's obvious. Everyone knows about this mod.
But what about click between blocks? This is a level where you have to click between the blocks to make them appear exactly when you need them and not click when you don't. It gets progressively harder all the way to the end where things start getting pretty crazy like this. So what do you think? Dash is actually very buggy. Let me show you. First of all, you can skip these first 2 orbs with a frame perfect, but it only gets worse. In the spider part, there is actually a gap in the wall that lets you do this. Then in this robot, you can do another frame perfect to fall all the way down into a bunch of invisible spikes. And in the final part, there is a way to jump before the transition and land here, just to die right after, so there's literally no point in doing any of that. This level is not what it looks like, and here's why. I'm talking about Frozen Castle, an extremely old demon that hides a secret. Nothing you're seeing right now would actually happen if you took this path, which is surprisingly easy to find. All you have to do is click really late on this blue orb right at the beginning of the level. This path takes you all the way to 91%, where there's a 1360 FPS frame perfect, and after that, it's literally impossible. Yeah, old levels are really weird. This level is only 19 seconds long because the creator got lazy and never finished it. And it's rated? Well, this is stage 9, created over 11 years ago. And back then, unlike today where getting a level rated requires decent gameplay, solid decoration, and blah blah blah. Since there were not many levels in the servers, yours could just exist on it and it would most likely get rated. So what do you think? Does this look like a demon to you? No? Well, believe it or not, it actually is, and here's why. This is elaboration, and while it looks more like a 3-star level than anything else, the difficulty isn't really in the gameplay, but in the length, 7.5 minutes. Even with the absurd length, this demon is still considered one of the easiest in the entire game. There are indicators for every single click, so pretty much anyone can beat this. Really cool. None of the blocks you're seeing are actually moving, and here's why. This is moving obstacles, a level created in the 1.9 update. easy. And if you didn't know, there were no move triggers back then. So how is everything moving in this level? Well, in reality, everything you're seeing is just an illusion. It's all created using color triggers to make it look like things are moving. They're actually not moving at all. What do you think? The power trip coins suck, and I can 100% prove it. So let's start with the least worst one. There is a coin right there. How do you get it, you might ask? Oh, you just pass right through the structure. Yeah, of course. Again, there is a coin right there. How do you pass right through the structure? And the third coin doesn't even work in 2.2, so I can't even show it to you. But well, all the coins got fixed, and now they're much better to collect. Thanks, Roberto. Can you beat Polar Guys to 7 FPS? But what does that even mean? Well, it means you only get 7 chances to jump per second instead of 240, so let's go. It starts off pretty well. There are some close calls right at the beginning, but it's fine. Then you get into the ship part, and it's literally free. After that, everything goes suspiciously well all the way to the end. And yeah, it's possible. Wow, so exciting. I love Polar Guys. Do you remember the invisible levels trend? Where people would copy famous levels and replace all the blocks with invisible ones, which honestly are still pretty easy to see. Well, what many people don't realize is that these are basically free stars and even free demons like Club Step, X Step, Blast Processing, which is inverted for some reason, Toe, Jumper, and even Back on Track. So what do you think? Geometry Dash has a new most famous level, but what does that even mean? I'm talking about download count, which basically shows how many times a level has been viewed by players. Previously, the most downloaded level in the entire game was kind of unexpected, Outer Space, the first level in the game's first gauntlet. But now it's way more predictable, Bloodbath, and the difference, just a few thousand downloads. What do you think? Press start, but what is going on? This is Pink Start, and in this version, every single structure's hitbox has been changed to the pink orb hitbox, so nothing is actually solid. You just pass right through and have to click somewhere in the middle, just like a pink orb. And I don't even need to mention that this one small change alone turns Press Start into at least a demon, right? I mean, the ship part might be easier, but the rest? Yeah, I don't think so. This level gives you free orbs. I'm talking about Codename Factory, which at first might look like just a regular hard demon, but in reality, it hides a secret. If you pay close attention, right behind the first mirror portal, there's a blue orb, and if you click the blue orb, it takes you to a secret way. In this secret way, you can skip 80% of the level and redeem your free orbs. The knock-in coins suck, and I can prove it. There is a coin on the screen right now. Can you spot it? No, because you'd have to be crazy to jump there expecting anything. And the next one is even worse. Look how high up the key is to unlock the coin. And the third one, well, just check it out. But thankfully, Rocktop fixed all of them. The first and the third one now have indicators, and the key is much lower. Thanks, Roberto. Bubuamba is actually very easy. You can probably beat it. Get that out of here. I'm talking about this Bubuamba, which is a recreation of the original using only 1.0 objects, and it's much easier. But don't think the memory aspect is gone. You still have to follow specific paths, and in some parts even create your own. And the craziest part is yet to come. Just like in the original ending, there is also a giant memory section here that you need to go through to beat a level. Can you beat Back on Track at 7 FPS? Now, you only have 7 chances to jump instead of 240. Let's go. It actually starts off pretty well. Even though it looks like you're going straight through the spikes, it's totally possible. Then we move on to the ship, which honestly should be no problem at all. To the next part and... wait, already? Not even a close call. Nothing? It's actually easier than Stereo Madness. A new official version of Stereo Madness just released. A few days ago, Rocktop released a browser trial version of Geometry Dash. And in this version, the only thing you can do is play Stereo Madness. But this version is a little different from the usual one. It has no coins. And it was even added to Rocktop's Vault account, where all of his official levels are stored. So does that make it a brand new version? What do you think? In this level, you create your own gameplay. This is do-it-yourself too, where you can build your own custom section using different game modes. Jumping with the cube or robot creates spike trails and triple spikes. Flying with the ship or swing copter spawns straight fly sections. Clicking with the ball, UFO or spider spawns some really crazy timings. And after creating all of that, you still have to play it and beat it. Pretty cool. This easy demon is 19 hours long, and it's also one of the easiest in the entire game. Let me explain. The crossing is a puzzle level where you need to do extremely specific actions to beat it, like waiting several minutes just to sit on a bench, or memorizing a random click pattern. But once you understand every single gimmick, it actually becomes incredibly easy. So if you wanna learn how to beat it, check the pinned comment. The press start coins suck, and I'm gonna prove it. There's a coin on the screen right now. Can you spot it? No, right? Now check where it was. Very convenient. But the next one is even worse. Just look at this. Why, Mr. Robert? And I'm not the only one who thought this. After a column video, Rocktop actually changed the way the coins appear, adding a brag load to this structure and making the second coin visible from the beginning. Very cool. What you're seeing right now is a rated level. And even crazier, an extreme demon made by 14,000 people. This is Place, a level created entirely by the Geometry Dash community. Anyone could place or delete anything on it every 5 minutes. And obviously, that resulted in pure chaos. But even with that, I mean, just look at this level. It still got rated. And since there is no actual gameplay, it was rated as an extreme demon. Can you beat Stereo Madness at 7 FPS?
Oh, Pimto, what does that even do?
Glad you asked, Mr. Dumb. It basically means you only get 7 chances to jump per second, while normally you would have around 240, so let's try it. The first few jumps go pretty smoothly into the ship and oh wow, this is completely unplayable. Then the triple spike, impossible? Not really. If you time it right, you can still get past it, and the rest of the level, so yeah, it's actually possible. Geometry Dash is free now?
Nah, bro, it's always been free. Geometry Dash Lite has existed for many years. What are you talking about?
Shut up, dude. RobTop literally released the Geometry Dash in browsers, so now you can play Stereo Madness anywhere.
Nah, bro, there were already browser versions. Check this out, it's peak.
Of course, yeah. Peak, you say. At least this one is exactly like the original game, Mr. Dumb. This level has platformer and classic mode at the same time, and it even has custom portals for each one? What? This is Platformer Lands, a level divided into 6 different sections, some in classic mode and others in platformer, all clearly marked by these custom portals. What's really cool is that each new section gives you a checkpoint, so it ends up being really easy. This 6-star level is harder than many demons, but how? I'm talking about Codename 1 and why we might look like a typical 6-star level at first. Once you reach the middle section, you actually need to do a frame perfect. Yes, in a 6-star level. You have to jump really late on this platform to land on the very edge of each block and make it through. And that's not all. There's even a small stray fly at the end. Really crazy. This level has 80 different ship sections, and it's somehow a really easy demon. I'm talking about Ship, one of the biggest mega collabs in the game, featuring 80 different creators. Each one of them had a small space to build their own custom ship art, which ended up creating some blind transitions, but also a 1.5 minute long ship demon for all the ship carried players out there. If you change every portal to the next one in Jumper, can you still beat it? So every kill part is now a ship section, and every ship section is now a ball one. The start is actually pretty tight, but it actually gets way worse. You can skip the first ball portal by going through the ceiling, and then move on to the next ball part, which is where things get really crazy. At first, I thought it would be impossible, but you can actually get past the structure doing a frame perfect and beat the level. This level is infinite, and it's actually rated, but how? Your first attempt might feel really confusing. You play it normally, and what looks like the ending actually sends you right back to the very beginning of the level. So how do you beat it? If you pay close attention, once you get back to the beginning, one thing actually changes. Now there are signs pointing to a specific part of the level, and that's your way out. Now the hardest part is actually finding it, but once you do, you beat it. You can beat this entire level with just 2 clicks. I'm not even joking. This is Corn, and even though it might seem like there's a lot going on here, in reality, it's all completely auto. Well, about those 2 clicks I mentioned, they are actually at the very beginning of the level. The first one right here, and the second one here, and that's literally all, you beat it. This level was made by 189 creators. It's called Tunnel, and the reason there are so many creators in a relatively small level is that each one of them only had a 3x3 space to build in. Don't judge my 3 pronunciation, please. And if you take a closer look, you will notice that every 3 blocks there is a different decoration made by a different creator. And apparently there was even some beef between the creators at some point during the development. This level calculates how badly wave carried you are. It's called the skill tester, and it puts you through a course of every single game mode. At the end of each test, you get a score. For example, in the ship test, you have to do a straight flight. The closer you stay in the center, the higher your score. In the spider test, there are some really tight consistency clicks. And in the wave, you have to stay as close as possible to this line. Really cool. This level you're seeing right now has no triggers. Yes, no triggers at all, not even for the colors. But how? Well, every color change and moving object here was created using the particle generator in super creative ways. Take the first part for example, where the orbs rotate perfectly around an axis. Or even this transition right here. Really cool. Can you beat back on track while the hitboxes are multiplied? Let's see. The beginning is pretty easy as you can... Already? Nah, I'm gonna ignore that because... Another one? Okay, this is getting kinda ridiculous, but thankfully... Nah, this is not possible. Again, the same thing? I mean, nothing happened, see? I can beat it, like, the pads don't really work at all, but they're not important in this level, so who cares, right? It's so good to just beat this level. Back on track is so easy. Oh, right, the hitboxes are multiplied. I forgot. So that means... What is up, YouTube? My name is Pimto, and I completely forgot that the hitboxes are multiplied. Life is beautiful. This entire level has just one jump, and the way to find it is actually the most interesting part. You see, this level has its own custom music, made specifically for it, and you would think that's how you're supposed to know when to jump, right? Well, not exactly.
Jump now, jump now, jump now, wait, no, okay, wait.
Because when the spike actually appears, the song doesn't really help at all.
That's okay, I guess. Oh, there it goes. That was a spike.
Is dryout possible with the next available portal? Basically, every time there is a cube part, I switch to ship. And whenever there is a ship, I switch it to ball. So at the start, everything seems pretty normal. The entire first section plays smoothly. And the same goes for the inverted part. But then there's a problem. What used to be a ship section is now a ball section, which should be completely impossible, right? Well, not exactly. In reality, you can skip the ball portal entirely, stay as a ship for the rest of the level, and actually beat it. Back on track, but wait, what's happening here? Well, the thing is, this only looks like back on track, because in reality, it's a completely different level. And even though what you're doing feels nothing like back on track's gameplay, the click pattern you need to beat it is actually the exact same. So, the secret sauce here is to ignore your icon doing all kinds of goofy stuff, deactivating it, and just playing like you normally would. What is the easiest level in Geometry Dash? A common answer would be something like Stereo Madness, since it's the first main level in the game. Or if we consider user-created levels, maybe Retry, which is one of the most played levels and widely known for being one of the easiest. But that's not actually true. There's a level rated as easy that is literally auto, and it's called RE. This level was made in just 2 hours, car rated, and it's arguably the easiest extreme demon in Geometry Dash. But how? Well, I'm talking about through the decay, and it sits right on the line between insane and extreme demon. And the reasons for that are pretty simple. The level isn't even 1 minute long, and it's 100% timing based, which means everything is straightforward right on your face. This level breaks Geometry Dash entirely. So let's start with the wave. Normally, these are the only possible angles you can go, right? Well, not in this level. Just take a look at how cursed this looks. Now the duals, which are even crazier. Normally, they sit right in the exact opposite direction of each other. But because this level is anything but normal, things like this happen more often than you might imagine. And it is called Find the Answer. Jumper and... okay, what is going on? Let me explain. Apparently, you're seeing and playing Jumper. And technically you are, but with a twist. The hitboxes for the entire level are completely wrong. And believe it or not, that's not even what makes it so hard. The hitboxes are randomly displaced, which means you have to guess where they are and play based on that every single new attempt. That's crazy. Does this level look familiar to you? That's because this is actually Stereo Madness, but 29 hours of gameplay away from the start. It's even farther out than the Geometry Dash world border. So far, in fact, that the level had to be adapted, and many parts of Stereo Madness were cut off along the way. All of that just to end here at what's called the event horizon, where your icon doesn't even move anymore. Very interesting. Can you be back on track with the next available portal? So basically, every time there's a cube part, I'll turn it into a ship part, and whenever there's a ship part, I'll turn it into a ball. Starting the gameplay here, and as expected, the old cube now ship sections go just fine. There are no real obstacles at all. In back on track, this ship part actually works really well as a ball, so you can beat it and the entire level with no problems at all. Is Stereo Madness possible with giant icons? You can get through the first few parts with no problems at all, until you reach the transition to the ship, which is completely impossible. You can try going above the entire structure, but you will end up dying later anyway. And if you somehow ignore that and keep going, you'd die here, 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 and even here. Only after all those deaths, you would be able to beat it. The club step skips are insane. You can already start by doing 3 skips in a row, skipping both pads and the last orb. Then, fast forward to the drop. This is where things get really crazy. You can pass this part by clicking only 2 orbs, skipping the pad, clicking 2 more orbs, and landing right on the edge of the spike. In the UFO part, you can skip the gravity portal by holding during the transition, but unfortunately, you die right after. And at the end, you can skip a pink orb, and that's pretty much it. My balls are fragile? Okay. So this is a platformer level with a fall damage gimmick. It's basically a giant tower that, without fall damage, you could beat in just a few clicks. But since fall damage is a thing, you now have to carefully choose the path you take, because if you accidentally fall more than 3 blocks, you're done. Your ball is fragile. Wow. In this level, your icon shape is constantly changing, and that single detail alone is enough to make it a demon. You have to adapt the way you play depending on the shape you're in. In the skill part, for example, you need to jump in places where you normally wouldn't, just to change your form and get through the section. In the wave, you have to stay as centered as possible, because out of nowhere, you might turn into a giant cube. The same thing happens in the ball, where some clicks seem impossible, but they're actually doable because your shape keeps changing. Really cool. This is Polar, guys, but also Stereo Madness at the same time. What? In Polar Madness, these 2 levels keep switching at random times with no warning at all. The orbs do flicker a little, but it doesn't really help that much. So you might think, oh, I'm just a happy person playing Stereo Madness, nothing bad is gonna happen. Wrong. Honestly, nothing really helps at all. Can you beat Stereo Madness with multiplied hitboxes? The first part goes really smoothly, really easy, and whoa, that was close. Reaching the ship part here, and you barely fit through the transition. Really easy here, there's basically nothing after all. And okay, you can't grab the coin anymore, but you might still be able to beat the level, get through the triple spike, and yeah, it's completely impossible. It's impossible impossible to die in this level.
But if the hitboxes were accurate, you'd have definitely died there, right?
You clearly don't know what you're talking about, Jill. Because I actually managed to die to the very first spike in this level. And to this one too. This level is a lie. It looks impossible to die, but it's actually so damn easy. These spikes are a lie. Everything is a lie.
Yo, chill, bro.
This level has 30 different decoration styles. Yes, 30 distinct parts in a single level. While most levels keep things simple with just one style throughout, the whole point of this level is to do the exact opposite. There is a part made entirely using particles and even another one built with just a single object. Some games are also recreated as decoration styles in-game, and even the level editor has its own section. I didn't even know there were that many decoration styles in the game, so this is really cool. This level adds fall damage to Geometry Dash, and that's exactly what makes it an insane demon. It's basically an XL level where you have to find ways to avoid falling more than 4 blocks. There would be many different paths if the fall damage gimmick wasn't a thing, but since it is, that's exactly what sets it apart from most levels. Really cool. Recently, I showed the Geometry Dash event horizon, something so far away from the start of a level that not even your icon can move anymore. For something that far, it sounds basically impossible to reach normally, right? Well, that's actually not true. It's extremely easy to get there. All you have to do is create a brand new level and set it to platformer mode, because in this mode, you can change the speed of the dash orb. Set it to something like this, but don't exaggerate or it might crash your game. And there you go, just hold for a bit and you're already there. Pretty cool, right? Stereo Madness, but wait, what's going on here? Well, it turns out this only looks like Stereo Madness. In reality, it's a completely different level. Even though it feels nothing like Stereo Madness, the click pattern you need to beat it is the exact same. So if you just ignore the fact that your icon is flying around 90% of the time and play the level like you normally would, you can actually beat it pretty easily. The bloodbath skips are insane. The first challenge you face is getting the Mega Hack bot to work so you can showcase the skips. But once you manage to do that, you can jump right in the middle of the triple spikes in the Michigan part. And that's not even the craziest skip you can do. In this ship part, you can basically skip everything by going through here and squeezing your way all the way to the UFO. Then you can pull off even more skips down here. And finally, continue the level to the end where you can take the Michigan route. Really cool. The level starts with a few triple spikes, followed by an orb timing, but unfortunately we can't beat it because of this wall at the end. The main thing that makes it impossible is actually the speed change. If it wasn't for that, the level would be completely possible. So what can you do considering that you can't remove the speed change? Well, trying to jump over it is completely impossible, as you already saw. So what's left to do is use a small hitbox bug. This lets you fall right on the edge of this block and jump over the entire structure. Did you know that Geometry Dash actually has a world border? It takes about this time to reach it. So let's try playing Deadlocked right next to it. And as you can see, nothing works properly anymore. Speed changes simply stop existing, and I'm pretty sure you noticed the new wave angle. The level becomes completely impossible to beat, which means the only way to actually reach the border is by using no clip. And there it is. All the objects start stacking on top of each other. And just like that, we're officially out of bounds. Is this the easiest extreme demon in Geometry Dash? Sweater Weather is getting a lot of hype recently for being surprisingly easy for an extreme demon. The level has actually been dropping a few placements on the demon list, which usually happens when a level turns out to be easier than the people originally thought. And the reason for that is pretty clear once you play it. Compared to most extreme demons, the gameplay here is actually very beginner friendly. Go try it. This level looks like it has nothing, but it's still rated. That's probably what you think at first glance, but having nothing besides colors is actually the whole gimmick of the level. Your goal is to stay in the blue background no matter what. Every other color and background becomes an obstacle you have to avoid. And with this simple idea, the level turns into a full platformer level, using the mechanic in a bunch of different ways. Really cool. Stereo Madness, but you have a sword? What? Well, Stereo Swordness is a buffed version of Stereo Madness, where you need to destroy the spikes that make the level impossible in order to progress. You're literally fighting your way to the end of the level. Every time you swing your sword, a small cooldown bar appears, so you can't just spam attacks. You actually have to think. Really cool. This is Club Step if you were made in the 2.2 update. Now, there's an actual memory part in the level and not this. The drop and pretty much everything else is extremely detailed, packed with a ton of effects. So even though it might have the same gameplay as Club Step, you can probably understand why it's rated as medium demon. The absurd amount of effects makes the level look beautiful, but also much harder to play. Did you know that Electrodynamics once had a beta version? At first glance, you can already tell how unpolished it is, and that becomes even more obvious as the level goes on. The UFO part, which is already known for being pretty hard in the released version, is actually way harder in the beta. It's much tighter, and as you can see now from this point on, pretty much everything is just a layout, or not even that. Really cool. The finger dash skips are insane. You can start off by doing this for absolutely no reason, since you're just gonna die after that. Then in the ship part, you can completely skip the size change portal by going under this structure here, since it literally has no hitboxes. After all that, you can even skip the wave portal entirely and play the whole section as a robot. After that, you can do this, again, for absolutely no reason, and that's pretty much it. This level is a demon and it makes absolutely no sense. You see, the Nightmare actually has a lot of remakes on the servers, and just like the original level, it would make sense for all of them to be rated easy demon, right? Well, in reality, they're all rated insane, even though some of them are actually harder than the original level because of the extra effects. So what do you think? Time machine, but a random event happens every 10 seconds. It can range from something simple like the screen getting pixelated, all the way to whatever this is. Most of these events are designed to mess with your gameplay. Like this run, for example, where I almost managed to beat the level. Invisible level? Okay, I don't know how I'm passing. Oh, thank you so much, game. This level might look pretty normal. Just a regular normal 9-star level? Wait, how? You see, there are actually only 2 levels in the entire game that suffer from this bug, Luster and Smetana. Smetana actually displays the correct rating on the level info page, while Luster on the other hand was also an easy demon and got derated to what you see right now. Absolutely insane. The level starts with a few triple spikes, followed by an orb timing, but unfortunately we can't beat it because of this wall at the end. The main thing that makes it impossible is actually the speed change. If it wasn't for that, the level would be completely impossible. So what can you do, considering that you can't remove the speed change? Well, trying to jump over it is completely impossible, as you already saw. So what's left to do is use a small hitbox bug. This lets you fall right on the edge of this block and jump over the entire structure. Did you know that Geometry Dash actually has a world border? It takes about this time to reach it. So let's try playing Deadlocked right next to it. And as you can see, nothing works properly anymore. Speed changes simply stop existing, and I'm pretty sure you noticed the new wave angle. The level becomes completely impossible to beat, which means the only way to actually reach the border is by using no clip. And there it is. All the objects start stacking on top of each other, and just like that, we're officially out of bounds. Is this the easiest extreme demon in Geometry Dash? Sweater Weather is getting a lot of hype recently for being surprisingly easy for an extreme demon. The level has actually been dropping a few placements on the demon list, which usually happens when a level turns out to be easier than the people originally thought. And the reason for that is pretty clear once you play it. Compared to most extreme demons, the gameplay here is actually very beginner friendly. Go try it. Did you know that Silent Club Step was actually meant to be decorated? If you didn't know, the version we have today is actually a nerfed version of the original level. Around the same time this nerfed version was being verified, there were creators working on decorating the original version of the level. But here's the thing, Silent, the creator of Silent Club Step, never wanted the level to be decorated in the first place. And because of that, the version that ended up being verified and rated was the one we know today. Did you know that Stereo Madness has a version decorated like Bloodbath? And that's actually an oversight because it's not like it's just decorated like Bloodbath. You get normal, easy Stereo Madness parts, and then out of nowhere, a Bloodbath jump scare. The level is called Stereo Bath, and it's pretty cool and everything, but I can't just pretend that this didn't just happen. Definitely harder than Stereo Madness. Trigonometry Dash? What is this? This level is the complete opposite of Geometry Dash. You play as a spike and have to dodge blocks. Not only that, every single orb is now square-shaped and a different color. All the portals are rectangular and you play as hazards. Even at the end of the level, you have to jump through a triple block. Very cursed. And it's called the Trigonometry Dash. This level might look pretty normal. Just a regular normal 9-star level? Wait, how? You see, there are actually only 2 levels in the entire game that suffer from this bug, Luster and Smetana. Smetana actually displays the correct rating on the level info page, while Luster on the other hand was also an easy demon and got derated to what you see right now. Absolutely insane. Time machine, but now time actually does something in this so-called machine. This is time machine. Wow. And the word time is highlighted for a reason. In order to beat this level, you might need to be the luckiest person in the world, because every second you spend in this machine has a 50% chance of killing you, and when you stretch that over 1 minute and 35 seconds, it leads to some pretty crazy numbers. Looking at the first frame of this level, it definitely seems like just another random recent tab level. Just a bunch of random portal and orb spam. That's it, until you unpause and realize that's not the case. In reality, it's a rate-worthy level themed around terrible recent tab levels, and somehow it actually looks good. I'm talking about the level recent tab. What do you think? Did you know that Deadlocked has a rated decorated version? It looks really beautiful and everything, but more importantly, it also means that if you already know how to beat Deadlocked, you can basically get a free medium demon here. The gameplay is pretty much the same, just with some more effects and a few small changes in some parts. And the funniest part is the name, Leaving Open. Get it? Looking at the first frame of this level, it definitely seems like just another random recent tab level. Just a bunch of random portal and orb spam. That's it, until you unpause and realize that's not the case. In reality, it's a rate-worthy level themed around terrible recent tab levels. And somehow, it actually looks good. I'm talking about the level recent tab though, what do you think? This is easily the weirdest level I've ever seen. It starts normally with some 4-star gameplay, but in reality, the only way to beat this level is by doing these 2 skips, literally going straight through the middle of the spikes. And you might be asking, why is that the only possible way? Well, feel free to try doing the straight fly at normal size at the end of the level. This demon has a secret way that not many people know about. At the beginning of the level like Quated, you're in a free ship camera, and we're going to use that to our advantage to literally skip the entire level. All you have to do is fall into this gap, click a few times, and hold at the right moment to fit through here. After that, you can just fly above the entire level and GG's, free demon. This geometry dash has its own far lengths. Actually, yes. If you place something really far away from the center in the editor, the game starts getting buggy. A good example is unknown processing. It's a level that takes blast processing and simply places it 72 hours of gameplay away from the start. Because of the insane distance, all the sprites start to glitch out, and at a certain point, the level even becomes impossible. Is Time Machine possible with randomly accurate hitboxes? At the start of the level, there's a random trigger with a bunch of move triggers attached to it, which leads to a different placement of the hitboxes on every new attempt. This single detail makes Time Machine incredibly hard. You basically have to guess where the hitboxes are and play the level around that. Absolutely insane. What if blast processing was built like Deadlocked? Well, both of them have very similar game modes, so it kind of makes sense. Unfortunately, the beloved monsters in the wave are kinda gone, but at least we got some good news in the next wave section. This looks amazing. The UFO now moves like crazy, but if that already looks hard, you're not ready for the ending. It's like Limbo 4. This is the shortest demon in Geometry Dash. It has only 25 seconds of gameplay, and the name says it all. Tower Descent. That's exactly what's happening here. Even though it's very short, it was still rated epic and considered a hard demon, mainly because the clicks are kind of blind. Go try it. This level has nothing but triple spikes, and yes, still rated as an insane demon. I'm talking about Trip, one of the biggest mega collabs in Geometry Dash. It features 96 creators, including Michigan at the end. It might also be one of the easiest insane demons in the game. All you really need is some consistency. It's 96 triple spikes, one for each creator. In this level, you play as the spike, and your goal is to kill as many players as possible. As the level progresses, the scenario changes and you turn into many different hazards. A saw, this spiky monster, and my favorite, this flying bat. But the end is definitely the coolest part. There is this transition and you suddenly turn into a giant clubstep monster, killing anything that comes close to you. And it's called an Earth Domain menu. In this puzzle, you start as a cube, then turn into a wave, dodge some obstacles, go through a mini wave section, and finally there's a giant wall at the end. So how are you supposed to beat it? Well, in Geometry Dash, there's this interesting bug involving D-blocks and the mini wave. If you didn't know, D-blocks allow the wave to drag along surfaces. And if you check this level in the editor, you can see that there are 2 D-blocks placed at the end. So you can actually drag the mini wave right between them and beat the challenge. This wave challenge is actually way easier than it looks. At first glance, it might seem really hard, with a lot of tight mini wave gaps. But in Geometry Dash, there's this thing called the frame perfect. The higher the frame rate, the harder the click becomes. For example, doing a 5 FPS frame perfect is way easier than doing a 240 FPS frame perfect. And that's exactly what happens here. All of these clicks are actually 5 FPS frame perfects, which makes them pretty easy to do. Can you be polar, guys, with the next available portal? What this does is basically change every single portal to the next one in order. So now we start as the ship instead of the cube. As you'd expect, it's completely possible. But is the ship part possible when you're playing as a ball? Turns out it actually is. The rest of the level is mostly easy with a few tight sections, but overall, it's very doable. This is one of the most hated levels in Geometry Dash, even though it has over 700,000 likes. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it, but recently, people started complaining out of nowhere, saying the level is unreadable and even call it a retry ripoff. All of that because Colin made a video calling it the worst level in the game, and people really went with it. So, how do you think? This is one of the most hated levels in Geometry Dash, even though it has over 700,000 likes. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it, but recently, people started complaining out of nowhere, saying the level is unreadable and even call it a retry ripoff, which makes no sense since it was posted before retry. So, how do you think? This level might have the worst hitboxes in the entire game. At least, that's what people say, but why? You see, Portal is a level made almost entirely out of portals, and overall, it's pretty simple. You're in the wave game mode, and all you have to do is dodge the portals. But here's the problem, in Geometry Dash, portal hitboxes are actually much bigger than they look, and on top of that, the level often uses invisible hitboxes. When you look at this level, what what difficulty comes to your mind? An easy or medium demon? Well, it's actually an extreme demon. And you might be wondering, how is this rated so high when it looks so easy? This is Loose End, and it has one of the easiest first 50% you ever seen in an extreme demon. Because it's only after you beat the first half that you realize why it's rated extreme. It's pretty unbalanced. The theory of everything too skips are insane. You can start by skipping these portals and going super fast in this UFO part. Then you can literally fly above the spikes here. After that, the level mostly plays out normally for a while, until you reach this slow section and mess around a bit with the orbs. And at the very end, you can go under the gravity change. It's a pretty hard level to skip, so that's it. How is this level rated as easy? It's literally 24 6-spike jumps back to back. I'm talking about Double Triple Trial, made by the legendary player Michigan. And while some people say Christmas Challenge is actually the hardest easy level, I honestly think this is a strong competitor, because this many consecutive jumps really demand solid consistency, and that is definitely not easy. Cycles, but every click has a chance of flipping the camera in a random direction. This is Cycling Cycles, a version that manages to make the impossible timing feel even more impossible, and somehow that ends up feeling easy compared to the rest of the level. Everything is basically impossible to understand. Like, just look at the ship parts. How are you even supposed to do that? Acheron, but why am I going through everything? Well, that's because in Acheron Madness, he only looks like Acheron. In reality, it's actually Stereo Madness in disguise. So even though it looks like a top 1 level, if you take a closer look at the hitboxes, you'll see that it's just the easiest level in Geometry Dash dressed up as one of the hardest. Can you beat it? This was once the easiest extreme demon in Geometry Dash. Monitoring is a fast-paced demon that was considered the easiest extreme, even below Red World, but only for a few days before it got demoted back to Insane Demon. Honestly, I think Red World is easier than at least 50% of all Insane Demons, and I don't understand why it is still rated as an extreme. Because of that, I don't think we'll ever get an extreme demon easier than Red World. It's literally an insane demon in disguise. You can see that this level is rated as normal with stars, and if you play Geometry Dash, you know that stars represent classic mode, while moons represent platformer mode. So in theory, we're talking about a classic level, but when you actually play it, it turns out to be a platformer level. And if you exit the level to check again, now it shows moons? Come on. It's up to you whether this level ends up being extremely short or extremely long. I'm talking about the level phases, and it simulates a platformer level in the 2.1 update of Geometry Dash. You play as a small ball, and your main goal is to complete 6 phases in under 9 minutes. There are a ton of checkpoints, and your lives are unlimited, so the only thing you have to worry about is the time. Can you beat cycles with the next available portal? What this does is basically change every portal to the next one in order. So now you start as the ship instead of the cube. There are a lot of tie gaps here, but they're actually doable. Next you'd expect the ball, but no, it's the UFO, and that part is completely possible. Now what was supposed to be the ship is a ball, and unfortunately that part is completely impossible. Is that locked possible with totally inaccurate hitboxes? Well, in Pinaccurate Locked, the entire level is displaced by 3 blocks, which makes all the hitboxes completely inaccurate. Everything you're seeing on the screen right now is actually happening 3 blocks away, so in order to beat it, you just have to grab the one mouse and play it like it's normal. Club Stab, it plays for you? This is Club Stab, and it's probably one of the most creative ways to turn a level into an auto level. There are no jump pads or invisible blocks like in other auto levels. Instead, it uses a bunch of move triggers that open up paths in the most creative ways possible. More specifically, 179 move triggers. What do you think? In this ball puzzle, you dodge the obstacles like normal all the way to the end. You can't go up because there are spikes there, and you can't just go forward either because there's a block in the way. So what do? Well, the ball actually has a mechanic that not many people know about. It turns out that if you double click, you can actually land on top of these blocks, completing the ball puzzle. Did you know the Finger Dash once had a beta version? This version is even older than the one shown in the sneak peek posted over 9 years ago. And in it, there are some pretty odd things. Take a look at the robot part. It's really unpolished and feels kind of strange, but the wave part somehow manages to be even worse. Rob completely lost it here. And after that, it's basically just a layout. Stereo Madness, but wait, what's happening? Normally in Geometry Dash, you're the one moving toward the level, not the level moving toward you. But if you switch the roles, this is what you get. It feels like you're being chased. This is actually kind of scary. Let's not talk about the triple spikes. Did you know that RobTop actually has 2 secret accounts? The first one is called Rob's Vault, and it's pretty interesting. There you can find every single main level posted by him in the original game and even in the spin-offs. This includes beta versions of some levels as well. The second account is called the Shadow Realm, and it strangely has a lot of creator points. That's because this account re-uploads levels created by people who did some bad stuff and ended up getting banned. This level is not what it looks like. Even though it seems like just a simple, cool, easy demon, there is actually something hidden here. As you can see, once you reach this part, yeah, the back rooms. Scary. Fear.
Creepy monster.
This level adds brand new orbs to Geometry Dash, like this pink dash orb, which works as both a dash orb and a pink orb at the same time. There are also yellow, red, green, spider, and even black dash orbs. And at the end, you have to complete this insane dash orb challenge, which just looks so cursed, oh my god. A secret block is replacing every normal block that was once there in Polar Guys. But what are these blocks anyway? And why are they so secret? Well, taking a closer look, you can see that it's actually a buggy sprite that was removed by RobTop in the 2.2 update. It was supposed to be the block 3800, but as you can see, it's not here. So now it's basically lost media. You need to pull off the craziest skips imaginable to collect all the coins. This is swag locked and you're rewarded with swag points for every skip you manage to do. The crazier the skip, the more points you earn. Your main goal is to reach 35 points to unlock all the coins. And to do that, you need something like this. A secret way in Club Step that simply takes you straight to 100%. Well, this isn't actually an oversight by RobTop. You see, sometimes you might want to make changes to a RobTop level, so you start looking for a copyable version of it. And the thing is, this specific Club Step version, with over 5 million downloads, was verified using a secret way, which ended up confusing a lot of people, making them think the original level actually had a secret way. Jumper, but why is it moving on its own? Well, it turns out that in this level, every click moves Jumper in a random direction, which completely messes everything up. Especially if you use the ship parts as a chance to spam as hard as you can. You'll see the entire level getting totally displaced, so the fewer clicks you make, the higher your chances of beating it. And yeah, it's pretty hard. This might be the best level to improve your raw wave skills. It's a fully randomized wave challenge featuring both mini and normal sized wave sections. At first, for most normal players, it might seem pretty hard, so the best way I'd recommend practicing this level is by using speed hacks if needed. Start at a lower speed, then progressively increase it until you're playing the level at normal speed. It actually helps out a lot. Time Machine, but wait, what's going on here? Well, it turns out this only looks like Time Machine. In reality, it's a completely different level. Here's the twist. Even though it looks nothing like Time Machine, the click pattern you need to beat it is actually the exact same. So if you ignore the fact that your icon starts flying around randomly and just play it like it's normal Time Machine, you'll be able to beat it anyway. This demon is so easy that even the creator himself called it free. I'm talking about Fajork, and what makes it so easy is that every single click can be buffered. That means there are literally no timings in the entire level. You can click whenever you want in the jumps. The only thing you really need is to understand what each game mode does. That's it. It's seriously that easy. What if Club Step was a top one? Well, then this memory part definitely wouldn't be so clear. Now it's starting to give some serious limbo vibes. Why not add spikes on top of every structure here too? Turn this free section into something actually challenging, throw in some tight, spiky stray fly sections, and monsters that look like they came straight from a horror movie. There are two stray flies, but you can't get past through either of them because both have fixed hitboxes. You can try as hard as you want, it's literally impossible. So what do? Well, here's the interesting part. Geometry Dash has a unique hitbox system. It's actually divided into two parts. The red hitbox is used to trigger hazards, while the blue hitbox is used for direct collisions. Since these blocks count as collisions and not hazards, there is actually just enough space to squeeze through here and complete the puzzle. The deadlock skips are insane. As you just saw, there's a way to skip the first kill portal and stay in the mini wave all the way to the end of the drop. There is also this robot skip that can let you reach the ball part with it. But even if you play this section with the ball, there's another skip. Later in this part, you can grab the coin in a more interesting way, I would say. There are also more skips, but unfortunately, you cannot beat the level with them. Everyone is going crazy about this level. I'm talking about Hypnotic Tide, a level built completely from scratch and documented through YouTube shorts by its creator. And people are already calling it Limbo 2. That's because of the ending. There's this giant jellyfish that pulses different colors depending on the path you're supposed to take. And after all of that, you still have to choose the right sword, which is randomly selected every attempt and can only be figured out through the hints the level gives you. The wave adjusts your skill, making it perfect for practice. And the way it calculates that is actually pretty simple. There's a scoring system where the longer you survive in the level, the more points you earn. And the more points you have, the harder the level gets. You can't go negative, by the way. My best was beating level 2, and there are people out there beating level 11. What the heck? Can you be blast processing in platform mode? mode? Most people would say no, since playing platformer mode with the wave sounds impossible, right? Well, not really. There's a mod called All Modes Platformer that actually makes it possible. Now, you can do literally whatever you want in this level, especially the skips or even going backwards, I don't know. It doesn't look that hard, but if you just play normally, it turns out to be impossible because of the last spikes placement. But if you pay close attention, there's another path to follow. You see, these blocks actually displace the dual icon. So if you manage to get both displaced blocks located in this level, you'll be displaced enough to pass the last jump, completing the dual puzzle. This wave challenge looks really easy, but wait, we can't get past it without a key. And if you pay close attention, there is indeed a key in the level. The question is, how do you grab it? To solve this puzzle, you'll need to use the level editor. Start playtesting, then pause right when you reach the wave portal. Go into the settings and change the game type to platformer. Now unpause the playtest, and just like that, we're in platformer mode. Grab the key and complete the puzzle. No escapes in platformer mode? You don't even need mods for that. There is a level called Platscapes, and it's exactly that. A full-length platformer inspired by No Escapes. It's split in two parts, one with a mini robot and the other with a normal-sized robot. It's not as hard as No Escapes, but still placed at top 86 on the platformer demon list. This is the most important level in Geometry Dash. Without it, thousands of levels wouldn't exist, and the whole community would be missing one of the most iconic decoration and gameplay styles ever created. It consists of a cube, followed by a ship, then a ball, and finally a long wave section with pulsing colors. That style is still being used and improved to this day. Obviously, I'm talking about 9 circles. You gotta have swag to get these levels coins. Every swag route you find in base after base now rewards you with points. You need 40 swag points to collect every single coin at the end of the level, which is pretty tough. I even did a click so swaggy that not even the creator thought it was possible, and I was still only able to reach 36 points, collecting just 2 coins. The only way you can jump is by pressing the keys that show up on the screen while you're playing. So yeah, you literally have to switch keys multiple times mid-attempt. There is even a chat, more specifically a Minecraft chat. And it doesn't stop there, there is also an F3 menu that actually shows my computer specs. This is actually scary. I'm talking about the mod Totally Normal Dash. The random tab. Yeah, okay, this might just be the recent tab v2. So let's filter for demons only, and I got a memory level. That's unfortunate. You can also find some of the oldest levels in the game here. Let's filter for 1.0 levels only. And surprisingly, these are better than a lot of recent tab levels nowadays. The blast processing skips are insane. The wave is easily the best game mode for fighting skips, mainly because it gives you the most freedom of control out of all game modes, and also because the hitboxes are so small. You can literally skip most of the portals here and even play around with the hitboxes if you really want to. But the craziest skip is by far this one. Seriously, just take a look at the hitboxes. This level right here randomizes beginnings, so I could just be chilling on electrodynamics and then suddenly codependence. The objective is to survive 10 random beginnings, which can be way harder than you might think, especially if you're as unlucky as me. Just take a look at everything I'd have to get through to complete a level in this no-clip run. This is just diabolical. What's the hardest platformer level? It's funny how the platformer demon list gets way less attention than the classic levels list. Everyone knows that the hardest classic level is Thinking Space 2, but far fewer people know that the hardest platformer level is Diamonds for Dashers. It might not look that hard at first, but keep in mind that this level is way harder than this anomaly right here. That's insane. There's a new button in my menu. It's called a GD Roulette, and here's how it works. A demon gets randomized and your goal is set. On the first level, you gotta get at least 1%. On the second, 2%. On the third, 3%, and so on, all the way up to 100%. There are also different styles of roulettes, like the challenge list roulette, but apparently the real challenge was getting this thing to stop crashing my game every single time. This is the fastest level in Geometry Dash. Thinking that 4 times speed is the fastest you can go is a very common mistake. Since the very beginning of the game, move triggers have had the ability to make things look faster, just like we see in the level Bloom, which uses move triggers combined with these cool speed portal designs to create a feeling of insane speed. Really cool. This is a platformer extreme demon, but why is it so fast? Well, I'm talking about 3x3, and the goal here is to beat the level as fast as possible. So no, this isn't a speedrun, this is the speed you're actually meant to play at. That's what makes it one of the hardest platformer extreme demons in the entire game. You have to finish the entire course with a bit of time left, or you die. That's insane. Can you play the skill tester in platformer mode? The obvious answer is no, but the reality is that you actually can. It mostly breaks the entire level. In many game modes, you can just stand still, hit a bunch of frame perfects, and end up with a perfect score by doing absolutely nothing. But some game modes don't work like that. The ship, for example, is actually way harder when played in platformer mode, and in the end, you you can get these absolutely crazy scores. Really cool. So too, but every part is randomized? This is told to randomizer, and your goal here is to pass every part of the level in a randomized order. Only if you have all parts completed, you can then beat it. If you get teleported to the end and still have some part unplayed, you're gonna get teleported back until you get lucky to find the part you need and pass it. This single detail makes this level way longer and harder than needed. Go check it out. What's the best beginner extreme demon? The best way to figure out what suits you is by trying a lot of different levels, not just trusting the replacement on the demon list. The beginner extreme demon list is actually really helpful for that. It compiles a wide variety of skill sets for you to test. There are long levels, skill-based ones, sync-focused levels, and many more. As for a personal recommendation, I'd say Azura, it's pretty solid. What do you think? I'm in platform mode, but what? Isn't it impossible to play platform mode with the wave? Well, here's how you make it possible. First, open the editor and place a wave or swingcopter portal. Normally, both are impossible to use in platform mode. After that, enable platform mode in the level settings, and in your favorite mod menu, select the almost platform mod. This removes rock top's limitation and makes every game mode work perfectly. Really cool. How fast can I be club step? You already started off badly. I somehow managed to die at 1x speed. But let's get it out of the way and jump straight to 1.2, which was actually easier than 1x. I beat it in a single attempt. 1.4 started to get a bit harder, especially during the ship sections, which were pretty tough to control. 1.6 was already insane. I had a lot of close calls, but I eventually pulled it off. And finally, 1.7 took me 30 minutes to finally beat it. This is the easiest extreme demon I've ever played. I'm talking about Proteus, a top 1200 extreme demon that I honestly won't be surprised to see it downrated to insane demon. The gameplay is incredibly fun, very easy to learn, and well balanced. I literally managed to learn and beat this level in about 30 minutes, so go check it out. Did you know about the secret way in Astral Divinity that could literally take you to 100% with zero skill required? As you might know, this level was originally called God Eater, but it got copyright claimed and was later updated into the version we know today. However, in the very first God Eater release, the creators missed a super easy secret path. Right here, at the very beginning of the level, you could simply jump over the transition pad and literally beat a level from there. This was quickly patched with a bunch of saws added to prevent this from ever happening again. Is jump set possible in platform mode? If you just stand still, something really impressive happens. As you can see, the chance indicator completely bugs out. Because of that, you might think that you're tricking the level in your favor, but the reality is that the level is actually tricking you. Because if you try to progress, you'll quickly see the results of your bad luck. That's unfortunate, but it is possible. It's just a bit rare. Did you know about the secret way in Nyatagarasu that can take you all the way to the very end of the level? That's right, this is a funny oversight that creators missed while building the level. Right here in the slow section, instead of going into the transition normally like everyone else, you can just skip the pad and go into the ceiling of the level. If the creators had simply placed an invisible spike there, this would have been prevented, but that's not the case. Because of this, you can just stay there for the rest of the level and reach 99%. Really cool. The ending of extreme demons are some of the most nerve-wracking moments you can experience. That's where creators place the most diabolical clicks in an entire level. Because of that, we have random endings, a level that compiles these brutal final clicks into one level. Some endings come from easier extreme demons, while others are taken from top demons with frame perfect difficulty. The goal is to beat 10 endings back to back without failing, which is actually pretty hard. What are the hardest coins in the main levels? In third place, Polar Guy's third coin, which features an insane cube timing. In second place, Fury of Everything crazy second coin that requires some precise straight flying. And in first place, obviously the hardest thing ever made by anyone in any video game.
Alright, first coin. Yo, that coin's kinda impossible timing.
How fast can I be deadlocked? At normal speed, it was just a level, one attempt. At 1.2, it started getting harder, but I still didn't take long. 1.3 is where the difficulty really kicked in. I died in some weird ways, but surprisingly it took only 9 attempts. 1.4 was much easier than 1.3, just 2 attempts. And finally, 1.5, it didn't take that long either, even with a few deaths near the end. But yeah, I did it. When I talk about the worst portal in Geometry Dash with someone, the most common answers I usually get are the mirror portal, saying that it messes with the level's understanding, or even the dual portal, which is by far the hardest game mode to read, especially when it's asymmetrical. But there's one underrated portal in Geometry Dash that is usually disliked by beginners, since it completely flips the logic of every input, making it extremely confusing for new players. I'm talking about the reverse portal. Do you hate it? What is the most enjoyable list demon in Geometry Dash? While many people might point to Ordinary, a level well known for being loved by many, or even Iris, a beautiful level with a pretty high enjoyment score, they are actually wrong. The level with the highest value valid enjoyment score, meaning scores with a considerable amount of sense, is actually the top 46, Gagatrondra, with an enjoyment score of 86.36. What do you think? I just beat Tidal Wave in one attempt, and you can too. But wait, let me get the most famous Tidal Wave level out of the way first, so I can show you the one that I actually beat. As you can see, I wasn't lying. I really did beat a level called Tidal Wave in just one attempt. And there are plenty of other examples of this as well, like Grief, Flame Wall, and even Andromeda. So yeah, this is one of the most hated Geometry Dash levels, but why? Well, I'm talking about dislike this level, and I think the name is pretty self-explanatory. There is literally nothing wrong with the level. The decoration is just a bunch of dislike icons arranged in different ways, and there's even a part where the level is made only of comments, with no block design at all. Yeah, it's clearly a joke level, but still, nothing more than that. That's crazy. Is thinking space still possible in platform mode? To answer that question, there's an important point to mention. This level uses a lot of move triggers, and they're responsible for opening the path for the player. So for this to work, we need to stay perfectly in sync with the level spacing. However, there's a problem. In platform mode, we can't pass the shift section the normal way. We're forced to not click the orb, which completely breaks the timing of the move triggers, making it impossible. Jumper with random portals? But wait, it's way more interesting than that. Unlike most random levels where getting a bad game mode basically means you're screwed, this level actually adapts to whatever game mode you get. Because of that, jumper becomes possible with literally any game mode, even though it can get pretty hard most of the time. So what do you think? Can I beat the nightmare using a potato? On my first attempt, everything went smoothly, no major problems until the ship part. That is easily the hardest game mode to play with a potato. Surprisingly, I didn't even die there. Instead, I managed to do the dumbest thing in the entire world. And no, it wasn't even the potato's fault. On the second attempt, things went pretty well. And even though I didn't remember exactly how the level worked, I still managed to beat it right there. So what's next? This level doesn't have anything besides blocks and still managed to become a top 10 extreme demon. I'm talking about Based After Base, a level that is entirely built around dual mode gameplay. Not only that, but the level has absolutely zero hazards. Instead, it's completely focused on dodging specific blocks while using others to progress through the level. This ends up turning it into one of the most interesting top 10s we have today. Really cool. How did this level even get rated? A few days ago, Robtop rated Ashley Wave Trials, which makes absolutely zero sense. Let me explain. When this level first came out, it was considered literally impossible, but Zoink being Zoink, he decided to go for it anyway. After a few days, he actually managed to beat the level. However, most people didn't believe it was ever going to be rated, mainly because Zoink used CBF for the verification. And Robtop has been pretty well known for not liking CBF verifications that much, but with the release of 2.208 and the addition of in-game click between steps, it looks like things have changed. So now, what's next? How fast can I beat Stereo Madness? Let's fast forward straight to 1.6 speed, because the previous ones were so easy they're not even worth talking about. Up to this point, I was grabbing all the coins and one attempt in every single run. After that, I died a few times, nothing too crazy. But once I reached the 2x speed, that's when things started to get difficult. I stopped going for all the coins and focused purely on actually beating the level. At 2.2 and 2.4 speed, it already felt like demon level difficulty, but nothing compares to 2.6. This thing took me 17 minutes and 40 attempts just to beat it with 0 coins. That's insane. Dry Out, but you have to touch as few spikes as possible. This is Dry Out, a buffed version of Dry Out where you start with 100 points, and every spike you touch makes you lose 1 point. The majority of this level is completely impossible to get through without losing points, and some clicks are just absolutely insane, every end type of clicks. And if you want to collect all 3 coins, you're allowed to touch at most 7 spikes, which is honestly insane. Can you be club step in platformer mode? The first cube plays out normally, and honestly it's even easier than the original club step. The second half felt way easier as well, since I could just stop moving and handle with the hard parts at my own timing. I grabbed all the coins and even pulled off some crazy swag routes, because in platformer mode it's not just easier, it's 100% possible. Can I beat 9 circles using a potato? First, I needed to set everything up. I got my potato here and connected it to this device called Makey, which converts electricity into inputs. So now, finally, to 9 circles. I was expecting this to be a hard challenge, since beating any level using a potato sounds pretty difficult, but the reality is, I actually beat it in one attempt. Yeah. What is the first ever extreme demon in Geometry Dash? While many people point to ICDX, that's actually wrong for several reasons. First of all, it isn't even an extreme demon anymore, and even back then, it was never the first. The real level I'm talking about was so hard for its time that it was literally considered impossible, and it held a high placement on the demon list for many years. Famous for its brutal spam sections, I'm talking about Silent Club. How fast can I beat 9 circles? At 1 time speed, it's just regular 9 circles, easy 1 attempt. 101 speed was only a small muscle memory break, but still a clean 1 attempt. At 102, we already got more challenging. I died a few times on the wave, but nothing too serious. With 103 speed, I only really noticed noticed a big difference in the pre-drop. Other than that, it felt pretty okay. But at 104 speed, things started getting difficult. I died many times on both the wave and the pre-drop, but I eventually managed to beat it. Then I was really starting to reach my limit. At 105 speed, I spent about 10 minutes dying over and over before finally pulling it off. And finally, 1.6 speed, by far the most dizzy I've ever felt playing Geometry Dash. It took me 50 minutes, but there you go. You cannot beat Slaughterhouse. But isn't it way too hard for any normal player? Well, the thing is, I'm not talking about the insane top 1 difficulty Slaughterhouse. I'm talking about Slaughterhouse? Yeah, the insane demon one. And even though it's way easier than the extreme demon Slaughterhouse, this one is still far from easy. You gotta be at least a bit skilled to beat it, since the gaps are insanely tight. Go try it. How many times can I beat 9 circles in a row? So, the first attempt is always the most nerve-wracking one, since you're not really used to the level yet. But I managed to beat it pretty consistently. By the second attempt, I was already more comfortable with the level. And even though I almost died multiple times, I stayed pretty calm and managed to do it with no major problems. Now, the third attempt, everything was going perfectly, until I did the dumbest thing in this entire world. Bro. Dash, but you can't click on any orb. This is Dash with evil orbs, and the level is fully optimized for this purpose. There are many new paths and ways to play the level, making it possible to skip every single orb. And it basically turns Dash into a memory level. Because, tell me, in what world would I know that I had to go through an invisible wall with a skeleton hanging out of it, instead of simply clicking an orb to progress through the level? This is insane. Can you beat finger dash in platform mode? Everything goes normally until you reach this dash orb. But it's fine, you just need to change the speed in the editor. After that, all you gotta do is keep going really fast. You have to stay as synced as possible. In this robot part, stop, wait for the right timing, and then continue fast. Past the wave section, the spider, and the final part. If you manage to do everything quickly, it is possible. Club step, why it is so fast? This is club speed, and it's basically club step played at 4x speed. The thing is, simply placing a 4x speed portal in club step would literally break the entire level, since it was never meant to be played that fast. Because of that, this level stretches club step by 4 blocks to properly match the new 4x speed, keeping the gameplay essentially the same, but way harder to read. Really cool. What is the longest verified level in Geometry Dash? Many people might think it's something like Eon or even Desert Bus, but it gets way worse than that. Even if we combine the length of those 2 levels, it still wouldn't come anywhere close to this one. I'm talking about a 17-hour long level called Purgatory, verified by the content creator Nifty. That's insane. Can you beat Dash in platform mode? So, the first cube and spider parts go pretty well, just like regular Dash. But when this spider part shows up, that's when we have a problem. Because in platform mode, we can't actually stick to the wall like we normally would in classic mode. But hold on, if you wait for the right timing, the player sticks to the wall for a brief second, and we can finally keep progressing. Or can we? It's impossible. You can beat over 5 extreme demons just by learning this single level. I'm talking about Sonic Wave, probably the level with the highest amount of remakes ever. You can start in Redemption, one of the easiest extreme demons in the game, followed by Auditory Breaker, Generic Wave, and finally Sonic Wave itself. And once you beat it, you can re-beat it in Sonic Wave Rebirth, which is literally the same level with almost the same demon list placement. That's honestly so funny. You can now beat Tidal Wave, but isn't it way too hard for any normal player to beat? The thing is, I'm not talking about this lame Geometry Dash looking Tidal Wave. I'm talking about Tidal Line, a Tidal Wave remake made in a level that looks like the classic Dancing Line mobile game. And if you don't recognize this game, I don't even know what to say. Even though it's classified as a hard demon, I honestly think it's a bit harder than that. Go try it. Back on track, but what? This is back on pads, where every pad changes your game mode for 1 second. That makes the level surprisingly hard, since every game mode has its own physics. Because of that, pads won't always work the same way, making you completely dependent on luck or insane reflexes to get a good game mode and progress properly. Really cool. Can you be deadlocked in platform mode? So, the first skill plays just like regular deadlocked, but a wave part is kind of a problem since it's way faster than normal. Go slowly and you should be good. Now, the ship part, everything's still. So, let's just grab the key here and head up to the UFO, where again, everything's still. So, it's impossible. Stereo Madness, but you're standing still and the level is moving towards you? What? Exactly. Have you ever had a strange feeling where it feels like you're not moving towards the level, but instead the level is moving towards you? In this version of Stereo Madness, that feeling becomes real, or almost. Because now that this is happening, I feel like I'm the one moving towards the level. This is so confusing. This is the most played level in Geometry Dash, and it's definitely not what you expect. I personally thought it would be either Retry, which is known for being one of the easiest and most accessible levels for new players, or even Bloodbath, which is known for being the extreme demon. But it's actually a hard 4-star level, known for being the very first level in the game's first gauntlet. I'm talking about Outer Space with over 100 million downloads. Stereo Madness, but it never ends? Not exactly. In this level, every single spike you try to pass through teleports you back to the beginning of the level, and this becomes a real pain in the parts with heavy spike spam, which is the main reason why this level lasts over an hour, turning Stereo Madness into a crazy persistence challenge. That's insane. This is the most unbalanced level in the entire game. At first, it may look like just a regular easy level, and honestly, it stays that way for 95% of the level. But the first 5%, oh boy. We're talking about 960 FPS mini-wave frame perfect at 4 times speed. This is the Naweman, a level that was supposed just to be a challenge, but somehow ended up getting rated recently. Pretty cool. Would you say that this entire game was made in Geometry Dash? Definitely not, right? But it was. This is Bubble, and in the game you control a small bubble. The gameplay is really simple. Hold the button to immerse and release it to emerge. The game features 4 different scenarios and even 3 bubble upgrades, giving us around 20 minutes of raw gameplay inside a Geometry Dash level. That's insane. The 2 most hated Geometry Dash portals have to be either the Swingcopter or the Mirror Portal, since it completely messes with how you read the level. But what happens if we mix the Mirror Portal, which a lot of people hate, with Stereo Madness, a level that everyone loves? Will it still be good? Well, I'll let you decide, because here we have Stereo Most Confusing, a level that does exactly that. Now, every click behaves like a Mirror Portal. What do you think? This level right here is mysterious. At first, it may look like there's nothing here, besides this one block that keeps killing you, but is that really all? Actually, no. If you look at the time, it might seem like just a bunch of absurd random numbers, but what you're seeing here is actually the 32-bit integer limit, which means the length of this level is the absolute maximum a 32-bit piece of software can handle. That's insane. This level actually scared me. This is Project Lobotomy, and you're trapped in a room with only one objective: decrypt these 4 files. The problem is that this guy and many other fine gentlemen are looking for you. Because of that, you need to pay close attention to the cameras and close the doors when needed so you don't get caught. Because if you do, I'm guessing you won't be very cool. The craziest event in Geometry Dash's last years just happened. So recently the game reached the 10,000 rated demons, and apparently RobTop decided to use some drugs to celebrate it, because some of the last demons he decided to rate include the Naweman, a literal challenge that contains 960 FPS frame perfects in the beginning, and then it's just a 2-star level. Death Corridor Z, a possible version of the famous Death Corridor level verified over 8 years ago, and obviously a Karmal level. What a surprise. This is how you make a particle accelerator in Geometry Dash. First, you need to understand that the physics in platformer mode are different from the classic mode, and that's perfect for our little project. We're going to use the UFO since it's the game mode with the highest speed limit in platformer mode. Now, you just gotta place 2 teleport portals like this, put a black orb in the middle, and then there you go. You've just built your own homemade Geometry Dash particle accelerator. Congrats! While many levels take thousands or even millions of objects to get rated, this level right here uses fewer objects than most recent tab levels and still managed to get rated. I'm talking about Through, a rated insane level made with only 25 objects. Just 4 of them are used for the gameplay, and the rest are for the background and visual effects. The result is a very simple but creative level that even your grandma's phone can run. Really interesting. This level is so heavy that it had to be split in 2 parts just to be posted on servers. I'm talking about Devour the Dio, a level that when you combine both parts ends up with over 3 million objects. And this craziness isn't just in the numbers, because when you actually look at the level, it kind of makes sense why it has so many objects. The first part runs poorly, but thankfully the second part runs smooth as butter, as you can see. Getting a rated level in Geometry Dash doesn't mean you have to spend thousands of objects in the editor. This is a pretty common way of thinking, especially with the amount of new effects introduced with the 2.2. But if you have a good idea and it can be made using very few objects, you can still get a rated level. Take List for example, which is the rated Geometry Dash level with the least amount of objects. It really shows how crazy optimizations has become, because this right here definitely doesn't look like it has only 16 objects. That's insane. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in Geometry Dash. I'm talking about Of Ambrosia, a literally invisible level with a top 200 extreme demon difficulty. Just take a look at this mess. Even when I turn the hitboxes on, I still can't understand what's going on. The only part of the level where you can actually see anything related to the gameplay is at the ending, but it doesn't even matter because there are invisible orbs and hitboxes there too. Like, what? Everyone knows that Back on Track is the main level that introduces pads in Geometry Dash, but what if the pads literally prevented you from completing the level? That's exactly what happens here. Every single pad you go through simply teleports you back to the beginning of the level, which turns Back on Track into a crazy persistence challenge, since you have to keep playing it for around 20 minutes. And that's not even the worst part. there is a bug that makes this level literally impossible to beat. You have to create your own path to beat this level. This is Wave Trail Robot, and you start off in the wave. There are no collisions, all you need to worry about is drawing a clean path to complete the level. Once you finish creating a good path with the wave, you get teleported back to the beginning. And now you have to complete the level using your previous wave gameplay, which most of the times turned into a complete disaster. But if you do it correctly, you can actually beat it. Really cool. Stereo Madness, but wait, where is the level going? Well, this is Stereo Moveness, and it makes the level move at every click. This simple idea can turn even the easiest thing ever like Stereo Madness into a crazy challenge, since the direction the level moves is completely random, and some attempts become totally impossible. Especially these ones where the level is literally floating, which is cool, I guess? Everyone knows that Geometry Dash's hitboxes are a mess, but what if they were actually accurate? Well, this level shows exactly that, because while it may look like just a regular challenge, the real difficulty is hiding in the hitboxes, which as you can see are 100% accurate. If this were the case for the entire game, even a simple straight fly would be humanly impossible. So thanks Raptop. A Geometry Dash levels museum? Exactly, this is the map museum, and here you can find over 100 of the most unique, important and influential user created levels in the entire game. Not only that, the level also adds some trivia about them, just like a real museum. And on top of all of that, you can even get some free moons while learning a bit about the game's history, which is really cool. Blast processing, but you play as a fraction? This is blast fractioning, and here every orb you click has a 50% chance to score. The goal is pretty simple. You need to be lucky enough to score as many orbs as possible and end up with a final fraction equal to or higher than 21 to get all 3 coins. You have a 64% chance to get the first coin, a 24% chance for the second one, and only 3.5 chance to get all 3 coins. This level is just a bunch of circles and it's rated epic. Don't underestimate it. When you're playing this level, it might seem simple or even lazy, just a bunch of random portals and orbs thrown in. But in reality, it's way more complex than that. If you open the level in the editor, you'll see that it looks more like a collection of insane artworks than an actual Geometry Dash level. And I think that perfectly explains why it's epic rated. Stereo Madness low detail mode? Who even needs that? Well, this is Stereo Least, and it's exactly what the name suggests. Stereo Madness, but with the smallest number of objects possible, while keeping the gameplay exactly the same. So thanks to that, now you can play the game at a crispy 5000 FPS. Actually, the only use I can see for this version is playing Geometry Dash on a fridge or something. This is the longest Geometry Dash level, and yes, you can beat it if you really want to. As you can see, it's actually very simple. Anyone who's played the game for a few days can do these robot jumps. But this isn't actually the biggest problem, since you may ask, for how long do you need to keep doing that? Well, just about 46 days straight. Not a big deal, right? This level literally forces you to cheat it, even though it's a rated easy demon. At first glance, it might seem just a regular level, but you get all 3 coins, you actually have to skip the entire level for a secret way, which is the easiest thing ever, especially considering we are talking about an easy demon. You just fall here, take this path, hit an invisible blue orb, fall 4 blocks, jump, and that's it. You just got a free demon. This might seem just a regular Geometry Dash level, but it's actually not focused on anything you're seeing here. You need to turn the progress bar on to really notice what's happening, and it stays like this for the entire level, until when you're finally about to beat it. What the hell? After some time the icon suddenly comes back, and only then you can actually beat the level. Club step, but you need swag. This is swag step, and in this level you have to play club step in the craziest ways you can possibly imagine. The more swag the route has, the more points you earn. You need those points to collect the levels coins, going all the way to 25 swag points to collect all 3 of them. And since I'm the swag master, I actually got them all. Go check it out. This level has more rooms than the number of sand grains on Earth. So this is Room's Lap of Babel, and it's a clear reference to the Library of Babel, a philosophical concept that describes an infinite library filled with infinite books, written using random combinations of words. But in this Geometry Dash level, things work a bit differently. Instead of multiple rooms, everything resolves around a single room, which is randomized by an absurdly large number, generating a brand new version on every single attempt. Really interesting. Jumper, but with random events, like a heavy cube for example. Here, there are a lot of possible events that change at every new part of the level. The fun part is that even the events that would normally make the level impossible are too weak to be playable, which makes everything even more confusing. But sadly, there's a 1% chance of the death event to happen, and when it does, there's nothing you can do. If you want to check it out, it's called Jumper with Events. Stereo Madness, but is this no clip? Not really. In this version, everything is displaced by 3 blocks, so what you're seeing isn't actually what's happening. To understand it better, you can turn on the hitboxes and see the mess for yourself, and even with them on, it's still hard to understand what's going on. So if you want to try it out, it's called Stereo Displacement. This might be Limbo and Orbit's long lost brother. And I'm not even kidding. First of all, it's a gigantic rated memory level. But when you really pay attention to how it's built, you realize that it's made almost entirely of orbs and portals. There aren't even any spikes in this level. You have to dodge the actual orbs and portals while using specific ones to beat it. Really cool. I think every GD player agrees that the mirror portal is the worst thing in the entire game. It literally messes up your whole understanding of the level. But apparently this guy had the idea of the millennium, because this right here is finger dash, but it flips every 2 clicks. Now combine that with a ship part where you have to click many times to get through. Come on, bro. This might be the most unique and weird level in Geometry Dash. First of all, keep in mind that this is a rated insane demon, because what you're about to see is anything but an insane demon. First of all, it's fish themed, and you might think that's normal, but what about a fishing simulator right in the middle of the level, completely out of nowhere? There's even a little shop where you can negotiate coins that you collect throughout the level, and to beat it, you have to complete another fishing simulator, but this time with a chance of pulling up a boot instead of a fish and dying. We wouldn't have the UFO and the wave game modes if it weren't for this guy. Back in update 1.4, the game only had the cube, ship, and ball. Because things were so simple back then, some people started creating concepts for new game modes that RobTop could add to the game. That's when the level gravity field emerged, introducing a very simple idea, a game mode that worked similarly to Flappy Bird, the UFO. Then, just a year later, the same guy who came up with the UFO concept created a level called Wave Wave, introducing a game mode that moves diagonally, the wave. This level might be one of the best choices for a first extreme demon. Honestly, the best choice really depends on your skill set, but if you're good at straightforward gameplay with very few timings, this level might fit you perfectly. All the gaps are pretty open and the visuals are very clear. The hardest part is a short speed up section that only lasts about 5 seconds. This level is definitely only an extreme demon due to its length, because the gameplay itself isn't a big deal. Go check it out. This level breaks the most important rule of a Geometry Dash level. Normally the objective of every level is to create a clear path for the player to follow. But what would happen if we removed that element from the formula? Well, this level shows exactly that. Here, you have to create your own path to beat the level, and there are nearly infinite ways to do it. You can be sure that if you beat this level, the way you did it is probably completely different from anyone else's. Can I go, but is this no clip? Not really. In this version, you actually need to touch as many spikes as possible. Doing so gives you points, which are required to complete the level and collect its coins. You need at least 250 points just to beat the level, and up to 340 to get all 3 coins. Really cool. This is the most hated level in Geometry Dash. But wait, it's an auto level. How can it be that bad? Well, it turns out it's only rated as an auto level, because when you play it, it's literally just a normal level with really bad gameplay and even worse decoration. Playing this level is like calling a taxi, but you're the one who has to drive it. Like, what? It is called Jazz. This is one of the longest levels in Geometry Dash, but it's definitely not what you might imagine. Have you ever seen the YouTube video Top 10,000 Cheese, where it's literally 11 hours of non-stop low-quality cheese images? The video gave people an idea, turned the same concept into a Geometry Dash level, and well, here it is. And guess what? It's a platformer level with 10,000 rooms. Good luck beating that. This is what would happen if you combine the UFO and the robot game modes. It works just like the ship, but when you hold your click, it behaves like a robot jump. Also, each individual click makes a small jump, just like the UFO. That's the balloon game mode. And that's not all, because this level even adds a brand new orb, the balloon orb. Really cool. This is the POV of your icon when you're playing Geometry Dash. It's honestly not that bad when you're using the ship or even the UFO. You can still see what's going on, but the moment you switch to the wave or the cube, and especially the ball game mode, things start to go completely wild. It genuinely makes me dizzy. I seriously can't play the game like this. Okay, I honestly don't know why this is a demon. Basically, this level is a clicker level. Literally a level where all you have to do is click until you complete it. No obstacles, no spikes, no saws, literally nothing. Just clicking. And it is considered an easy demon. If you want to make it even easier, you can bind multiple keys to the jump action, which makes spamming way easier. RobTop, you've got some explaining to do. This level is made entirely using portals, and it still managed to be a medium demon? Yeah, this level is really unique, because all you gotta do is dodge the portals, instead of using them to progress through the level like you normally would. I'd also say that it's definitely one of the easiest medium demons in the entire game. It's literally all wave. Really cool. This is what would happen if you combine the swing copter and the wave game mode. It works just like the wave, but instead of holding and releasing, you simply click to switch gravity. And the way it was made is way simpler than you might imagine. Behind the scenes, it's actually just an UFO with blue orbs on it. So this is the Blade game mode, a new concept created by the community. Really cool. Many people call this the easiest demon in Geometry Dash, but I don't think that's the most interesting part. That's because the main gimmick of this level is finding your way out of the scenario you're stuck in, whether whether that means simply jumping out or solving small puzzles. And if that wasn't enough, the level actually has two endings. The first one happens if you're playing in practice mode. You can see the ending wall, but you can't reach it. The second and intended one happens when you beat the level normally. Once you see this strange image, you can restart the level and finally escape the experiment. Very unique. Well, I guess, but it never ends? Kind of. In this level, there are checkpoints where you only have a 20% chance to pass and move forward. If you fail, you're instantly teleported back to the previous checkpoint and have to try again. This keeps happening over and over until you finally get lucky enough to pass and progress further. It's a really simple idea, but it makes the level surprisingly unpredictable. Pretty cool. Geometry Dash is actually way easier than you might think. Let's take this as an example. It looks completely impossible, right? But in reality, you can pass through it as many times as you want without any problem. And that's because not everything is exactly how it looks. In most cases, the actual hitboxes are much smaller than the objects themselves, which is really important to know.